Go now.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Genesis Evangelizani MCU panel discussion. First off, if you want to support us on Patreon, go do that, patreon.com/Genesis Evangelizani. You've got a whole bunch of tiers and you can request us to do videos. Excellent. If you want to be a part of these videos, just go to us on Twitter, which is GAndrozani on Twitter, or if you know Connor personally, message him and you can become part of the panel. Cool, thanks. Alright guys, we're here reviewing... Oh fuck, which one is it? Civil War! We're here reviewing Civil War! Hey!
How could you forget Captain America Civil War?
It's literally sitting right here on my desk as well.
Is that the source material?
Yes, of sorts. It's very...
Alright then. Alright, well, seeing as you're in such a chatty mood, why don't you give your 2-minute initial thoughts on Civil War?
Fuck, it's good. Basically, what Winter Soldier did to mature Captain America, Civil War does to mature the entire MCU and start moving it towards a more dramatic and intense and hefty direction that feels earned. And the way they connect all these characters' stories, and every character has a reason for siding on which side they do, and it's captivating, unexpected. And the thing is, I love the way it's structured and leads to a natural climax, but that's not actually the climax. The final 20 minutes happens, and then we get the Howard Stark reveal, which is one of the most just gut-wrenching twists I've seen in a blockbuster. And it's just so real feeling, and I absolutely love, from a technical standpoint, everything that Winter Soldier did, this takes and just runs with it with a fire in its ass. You know, it's brilliant. Really, really good. I love it.
Cool. Callum, your turn.
Right. Captain America Civil War is by far at this point for me, up to this point, the best MCU films for many different reasons. One of those reasons is the conflict between Captain America and Iron Man. There's so many layers in just that conflict alone that make this for me one of my favorite films ever. Captain America in this film is bloody fantastic. Iron Man in this film has so many layers in this film that I love. All the characters in this film are extremely entertaining. Action set pieces are off the charts in this film. The Russos really brought their A game to this. The story itself is such an interesting concept that's been building up now for the last couple films, ever since, I would say, Avengers, when they hinted at this kind of thing. And the way that the Russos executed this film is like, you can't imagine how much work had to go into this to pull this off, and then some. This film is just breathtakingly awesome to look at, captivating from start to finish, and like Adam said, the twist at the end is, for me, the icing on the cake. It's the biggest complaint that everybody seems to have in these films, is that there's no stakes, but that sort of twist changes all that. It's one of the darkest moments in the MCU for me, other than probably one other point, which I think we all know about. But at this point, that is just the pinnacle of the MCU for me at this point, watching Civil War. I loved it before even rewatching it, but then with all the films we've watched up to this point, it's just the best. Fantastic start to finish.
Right. Basically, Civil War is like if you combine Winter Soldier with the Avengers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what it is. It's the best of both movies in one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's awesome. And it's great. And it's more of an Avengers film than Age of Ultron is.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that makes Age of Ultron Avengers and not this is Thor and Hulk. And that's it. Basically. It was fantastic. I would say it's probably one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen.
Good call.
It's right up there. And yeah, I'll leave all the rest of my thoughts for each point that we get into. But basically, to start off, it's one of the best. Basically. Yeah. Rightio. So, of course, we're going to start with the main, character of this film, Steve Rogers, aka Captain America. Yeah, why don't we start with Callum?
Right. Captain America in this film is just, of course, him being the star of this film. It's obviously called Captain America: Civil War, but Steve Rogers in this film is so interesting in this film. One of my favorite lines he has is at the very beginning of the film, which sets out the conflict between him and Tony Stark, is when he says to Wanda after what happened in Lagos, they tried to save everybody, but sometimes that doesn't mean everybody. But if they can't live with that, maybe nobody gets saved next time. And that's what sums up Captain America in a nutshell for me in this film. And this whole Sokovia Accords and his argument for it, based upon his past with Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that, losing trust in his government, is so interesting to watch. It's so amazing to watch all these films, all the Captain America films up to this point, and me having that benefit of watching First Avenger for the first time in full in ages, and then going to here, it's so satisfying to see how his character has grown, but in the sense that he's grown like of everything that's happened around him, because Captain Rogers as a character hasn't changed since First Avenger, but that's not what makes him so great. It's everything around him that's made him change his opinions and everything else. And this film, he is by far probably equal level playing field with my favorite part of this film, the other part being Tony Stark. He's amazing in action pieces, especially in the airport scene, but obviously we'll get to that in detail when we get to everybody else. But man, oh man, Captain America is fantastic in this film, as he has been like in Winter Soldier and well, I just love America in this film, because the thing is with like the whole Captain America versus Iron Man, you can get why both sides have gone to those sides. Like for example, like Rhodey, for example, saying he thinks it's the right thing to do. With Rogers, he's not trying to appease the American people or the politics. He knows that the safest hands are their own. He knows that, and I just love that about him. It's just, I think he's one of the best things in the film.
Yeah, I have to echo everything you've just said. The fact that on that principle alone, if this is the same Steve Rogers that was in First Avenger, it would like well,
oh dear.
to save the little person, you know. But on top of that, happened in Winter. All the fact that he has a distrust of the government, and the government are the ones saying you can't be you, and he's basically saying fuck off to that.
Yeah.
The way they justify him taking such a hard stance, when generally, he's a tough character, but generally when it comes to conflict, he tries at first, but in this one he's like, nah, no way. This is, and on top of that, he has his love for Bucky, and knowing Bucky can be saved, or believing Bucky can be saved. He sees the good in his friend when no one else really does. Well, everything with Rogers' character perfect sense. It feels so satisfying reaching it. As a trilogy alone, it's brilliant. On top of the two Avengers films which tie into this, it's just everything is so logical, and I really love that. There's logic behind every character's motivation, specifically Steve and Tony.
Yeah, Captain America was brilliant in this film. It's kind of the perfect choice for Civil War to be his film, I think. Even though this is technically they sort of market it as a Cap and Iron Man film, this really is mainly his film, and I feel like his story revolves more around this moral conflict than any other character, even though they all get involved in it. And I think having Iron Man be his antagonist is such a brilliant idea. And it's almost like a follow-up to Age of Ultron, because in Age of Ultron it was the same thing. Iron Man caused Ultrons, to become Ultron.
Well, he brings the film, yeah.
Yeah, and in this case, it's not even just the software he creates. It's actually Iron Man himself that is the antagonist to Captain America, and that is so interesting because like Iron Man's supposed to be like the most popular Avenger, but then Captain America's stepping in to say that like I think there's a brilliant scene where it's at Peggy Carter's funeral, which again that ties into First Avenger as well. So at her funeral, when the person who was speaking, I think it was Sharon who was speaking, she says the line
that she's related to.
She says the line like, "If you know what you believe is right, don't move aside." And that sets Captain America up for the rest of the film. It's like he just would not budge. He believed what he believed was right, and he would do nothing. No one would stop him.
Yeah, if people are telling him to move, then he should stand his ground and move and be a tree and don't move.
Yeah. And the iconic helicopter bicep shot. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Also, another thing I want to bring up, I'm sure we'll get to it when we get to the point, but also this film, as well as Winter Soldier, make me appreciate First Avenger more because Steve legitimately had a relationship with Howard as well. He suffered a loss from Howard's death, yet he still stands by Bucky's side.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's an interesting wrinkle that I like, that not many people bring up, because it's not really addressed that Howard was Steve's friend as well.
Yeah. And in a sense, Howard was inspired by Rogers in First Avenger to go on to do and found S.H.I.E.L.D. along with Peggy Carter. So, yeah. I love how Tony says how he resented Captain America when he was younger because Howard would always mention him, and it goes back to the Iron Man trilogy where Tony always thought that Howard never loved him because he was so focused on his work and stuff like that, how he would always talk about Captain America and all that. I love how that's, in a sense, also paid off, even though it was already paid off in Iron Man 2. It's again brought up here, and it benefits the story between the conflict between Tony and Cap. Fuck, this film is so good.
Yeah, and the fact that so physically in appearance, Steve Rogers is younger than Tony Stark is by a long shot, but in this film you actually get the feeling that he's almost like his uncle. He's like because he was like friends with Howard, and by the end of the film, when Tony Stark understands the truth behind his father and it becomes personal, it's almost like Captain America becomes like a paternal figure to Tony Stark, which is really strange considering how he's physically younger than Tony Stark.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes in the film is when we first see Iron Man and he has this therapy experiment which shows him what he wishes his final conversation was between him and his father and mother. And I love how when you first hear the mother saying, "Say what you want now or otherwise you regret it," at first when you hear that you'd be like, is that something really they would say? But then you realise it's an experiment and that's what he wishes he had said. I do love this whole thing, how Iron Man feels so guilty about everything he's done up to this point. At the moment he's on a break with Pepper, which is they use the advantage of Pepper, the actress, not being in these films. They use that to the advantage of the story. How Tony's trying to break the middle with these accords and giving people funding money in the very beginning of the film. And this conversation between him and the woman who lost her son in Sokovia, which pushes Tony to agree with these accords.
And also on top of that, he's experiencing anxiety, which ties into Iron Man 3. Of course he would sign the papers because he's scared. He's scared of what might happen.
Absolutely. He's the one who's been to space. He's the one who saw what's coming, and he lacks he desires control, and he believes through shifting the control to the government out of his own hands, then he can find something to control it. But as Captain America points out, no, that's a cheap way out. That's not right. You have a responsibility. Both arguments, the thing is, you may disagree with one side or the other politically, but based on the characters' personal experiences and growths and narratives, it completely makes sense why they sided with which side.
Exactly.
The thing is with Cap, why he is against the Accords is because of like calm reasoning and thinking that the safer sounds are their own. With Tony, the reason why he is with the Accords is purely an emotional response. He's doing it because he thinks this, he thinks that, not what's benefiting the whole Avengers or the country as a whole or world. And that's what I love about this film, and that's why I love how the film, in a sense, makes Tony the antagonist. Like, obviously we have Zemo, who we'll get to, but for me, Tony is the antagonist of this film. And I love a little bit like when he's having this conversation when we first see Tom Holland as Peter Parker. You could easily think that Spider-Man could be on Cap's side because of his reasoning, saying, if you can do the things that he does, but you don't, and then the bad thing happens, they happen because of you, something like that, you could easily see Spider-Man on Cap's side, but the way Tony words it, it's so fucking brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
And also, Tony is the antagonist of the film. Like, even, he completely makes sense, but as you just pointed out, he brings a 16-year-old kid into the middle of battle. He does shitty things in this film to get.
This, and also that having Wanda left in Avengers HQ, and then when Steve finding that out and stuff like that, and I love when Tony says give him a break, in a sort of, like we said, he's still suffering from this sort of anxiety thing, and he's like under all this pressure basically to try and fix everything that's happened, especially after what happened. What happened? I can't remember what country they were in where they had the
Sokovia
finalized. No, it wasn't Sokovia. It was when the place where. No, it was T'Chaka died, but I can't remember where it was.
Germany, wasn't it? Berlin?
I think it was something like that. Yeah.
It's in Europe, I think. Yeah.
So it was somewhere in Europe, but yeah, and I just love. Oh god, I just love.
But the fact that throughout the film, his fight crumbles under his feet. Like he's assembled this team, but then like Rhodey almost dies because of it, and and that just like, and then he finds out about Howard Stark and his mother being killed by Bucky as the Winter Soldier under control from Hydra, and then so that gets personal, and then like there's that scene when Captain America throws his shield into Tony's like center. Just it's so emotional. Just to see him defeated.
Yeah, and then in that bit when Cap's about to hit him, you can see Tony's blocking his face because he thinks Cap's about to kill him, and that's the difference between the two characters, and why Cap, in a sense, is a flawless character in the terms of he always does the right thing, even in heated situations like this. Whereas Tony, if he was reversed, he probably would try and kill Cap or something like that. Like he was trying
especially in the heat of the moment.
Exactly.
Finding out that he was backing Bucky, who killed his parents.
Yeah. And the fact that he knew about it and didn't tell Tony, because we find out that in Winter Soldier, we find out that the Winter Soldier killed Howard Stark. But when watching that, you could easily miss that. And I love how when I first watched this, I forgot all about that Cap knew and stuff like that. And
well, that blew my mind. Rewatching Winter Soldier, I'd completely forgotten that they used the twist of Civil War in Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
But Cap didn't want to tell him because he didn't want to hurt him, and he also didn't want Bucky to, be hunted down by Iron Man.
Yeah, but unlike Cap
protecting Tony and Bucky by not saying anything.
Yeah,
it's like it wouldn't be honorable to do that, but he was protecting them.
Yeah, and like Cap says at the end of the film, he in the letter he says he thought he was protecting him from not telling about his parents, but really he was protecting himself in that sense. So I love the final thing as well. It's like, and this film, because of the conflict, not just of the Accord, but the conflict between Iron Man and Cap and Bucky, this is like the Avengers have been broken down. That they have. even with Zemo's being captured, he says, and when like Martin Freeman's character, I can't remember his name, but when he says like, see his plan fail, yeah, but did it? No, it didn't fail because the Avengers are in a sense broken. A lot of them are now scattered. Most of them are now on the run because of the Sokovia Accords. So like this film,
and on top of that, Thanos is out there with the fucking gauntlet, and he's going to kill everyone.
Yeah,
because you've seen Infinity War. If Tony had just called Cap, the snap probably wouldn't have happened. But because Tony was too scared to confront his demons, half the universe died.
Yeah. Many people some people's complaint with this film is that they feel that there's no stakes at all, and they think that it's all hunky dory at the end of the film. But no, that's not the case. They're broken. Just because Cap has sent this letter saying that if he needs him, he's there, doesn't mean it's all hunky dory. Because Tony still feels the regret and feels the situation of the conflict between them, how broken down the Avengers are right now.
And Rhodey, he feels the person who was Tony's closest friend, Rhodey, is the one from that fight who was damaged.
He's now paraplegic.
Yeah, and that's Tony's fault.
Yeah. And then that would be amplified later when he killed half the Earth.
Whoops. Oh man, I cannot wait for Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got my...
For me, this time next week... Yeah, for me, this time next week, I would have seen it. This time next week, I would have seen Endgame. So,
Same.
So I'm very excited.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking we should do Endgame review on Thursday next week.
Yeah,
if we can.
If we can, yeah.
I'll be able to make that, yeah.
Hopefully Anthony will be back in New Zealand by then, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll get to it when it comes to it.
Yeah. But Civil War. Anything else we want to say about Cap or Iron Man?
Just...
You did mention, Adam, in another review, you mentioned that you don't like the CGI for Iron Man's suit in this one.
It's just, it's like a real minor nitpick, but
I get what you mean.
Iron Man 2 and 3, even though it was clear it was CGI, they felt, heavy, and the sound effects were really good. Whereas in this one, you can tell there was less time spent on the CGI.
It felt like glorified spandex.
Well, that's the thing, is it looks like the way it moved was just his body movements. It didn't look like there was mechanical shifting around him, and also the you could see like the black gap between his neck and the suit. He was like a floating head. But that being said, that's a minor nitpick.
Yeah. And the action pieces between Cap and Tony, especially in the final battle, are incredible. Like that iconic shot of Iron Man doing his hand beams and then Steve blocking with his shield. That's straight from the comic books, that shot. So, and that's done fantastically well. Like, brilliant.
Yeah. But yeah, anything else about Cap and Tony?
No, I don't think. I think we've pretty much where I've set my piece, I think.
Rightio. Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier.
Oh, bastard.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
it's like, bastard. I love how Bucky, throughout the film, is constantly saying that he doesn't feel like this is all worth it. That Steve pulling his neck out for Bucky never feels like he's worth it, because he knows that what he's done. Even though Steve says you were under control, Bucky still says, yeah, but I did it. And he remembers it all. So I think obviously, like, Bucky as a character doesn't get like too much to actually do, but compared to like Tony and Iron Man, but he is the vocal point and the center point of this film. Everything, and I love how like they mentioned, like, especially with like Zemo's plan, like for 2 years they tried to find him and found nothing, but him being framed brings him out of hiding and they catch him and all this. I love how Bucky is used in this film, how he's the center point of it, and it drives the conflict between Iron Man and Tony, Iron Man and Cap in this film. Just love everything, and I love when he becomes the Winter Soldier again, and then we get this nice like sort of battle between you got Black Widow, Agent Carter, you've got Tony as well. You got Black Panther. That little bit as well was really, really fun. And then you obviously, like we mentioned, the helicopter bit as well with Captain America.
Any
really
action scene with Bucky in it is always great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also, Bucky was so much buffer in this film that he was. He'd put on so much muscle mass.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah. But I also, interestingly, how there's brief little moments of comic relief from Winter Soldier surprised me.
Yeah.
With him and Falcon, it kind of makes sense, but the thing that doesn't seem out of place because the comedy comes from how deadpan and serious the Winter Soldier is, and how sort of jokey Falcon is.
Yeah, exactly. And I love how in a sense they just don't like each other.
Yeah,
because especially like for example when like Bucky when Spider-Man gets thrown out the window. And then Bucky's like, "You could have done that earlier. I hate you," and stuff like that. That's fun.
But there's also a subtext to that in terms of Falcon is Captain America's closest friend in the modern day.
Yeah.
But Bucky is Captain America's. He's his life and blood. He's with him to the end of the line. It's like it just creates this interesting sort of
roadblock end of the line.
It almost becomes almost like a schoolyard jealousy.
Yeah, you get that little feeling, yeah.
But not in a way that sort of undermines their character, but it just adds a wrinkle that's interesting.
And I like just before we get to the final conflict, when Bucky and Cap arrive at the base, they have this little moment when they're talking about the old days when. There was some redhead that Bucky was trying to impress and stuff like that. We get a little bit of that, and we haven't had that since like First Avenger between them. We haven't had this like sort of moment where they've sort of bonded like the way they used to. And it's nice to see that the film takes time, just a little bit of time to start saying, no, these guys are like best friends. They have known each other for most of their lives, and I love that little bit. The Russos do a fantastic job, and the writers do a fantastic job as well.
Yep, I agree. There you go. Yeah, I think with Winter Soldier and Civil War, I definitely think Bucky was fantastic. I still kind of, there's still like a bit of stink on him though, because in First Avenger, I just didn't care about him. Like, is Adam gone?
I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Alright, all good. I don't know, it's just like, I think it's just because of First Avenger. Like, it's the only thing I really have against Bucky as a character, because he is great in Winter Soldier and Civil War, and his story's great, and the actor's great. It's just, I don't know, First Avenger just left a bad taste in my mouth, and I can't get it out, even with films like this, to reference back to it. So that's always sort of carried on with Bucky, but I do think he was one of the many highlights of this film.
That's fair.
It's going to be weird watching Infinity War again because I just don't remember him being in it.
Yeah, you'll be like, oh, he's there.
He's in it for about 15 minutes and then turns to dust.
I mean, the thing is, like, half the characters from Infinity War, I didn't know who they were, so I was just like, I'm not going to pay attention to those parts.
Yeah. More than half the film.
Yeah, but then again, it's ironic because they get rid of half the characters, so did I. I snapped them out. So anything else we want to say about Bucky before we move on?
No, I think we've pretty much covered it. Like, he's great in the action scenes, and he's great for the center point of this film, being sort of the driving point for both Cap and Tony as well. And the final battle is done really well. I love how, obviously, Cap and Tony are trying to kill each other, but Tony's trying to kill Bucky. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Bucky's trying to kill Tony. Like when he's like grabbing at his like the core in the middle, I wouldn't be like surprised if he's trying to kill him. And it's like that shows like Bucky is a character, I think. because he's been trying to survive for a very long time, ever since Winter Soldier. So,
and the fact that Bucky gets his arm blown off, which is kind of like,
yeah,
but it's kind of symbolic in a way of him releasing himself from the grip of Hydra. In a way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hail Hydra. Right. So the next character, I would describe in terms of like the civil war between Iron Man and Cap. I would say this character is the middleman or middle woman, if you want to say. Of course, that's Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow.
She's so good in this film.
Yeah.
She's fucking awesome because she's the character who flip-flops.
Basically, since Winter Soldier, she's been one of the best characters.
Well, the thing is that I love about this film is, what film were we introduced to her in? Iron Man.
Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 2.
Character, and then she became a Captain America side character.
Yeah.
But in this one, she goes back to siding with Tony, and she is justified because of stuff that was set up in Winter Soldier with her doubting herself.
Yes.
Such progression. Every character's choice in this film is completely justified.
And then at the end, she turns on Tony again.
Because she believes there is a bigger fight out there. She knows the danger. She's fought the Winter Soldier, and if there's 5 more of them, she knows they have to go and stop them.
Yep.
And so she's willing to turn on the King to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Black Widow is fantastic in this film. Great in action set piece as she normally is, but as a character, she's like not one of the surprising ones. But after going through all these films, I'm so like engaged in a character way more than I was when I watched Infinity War or when I first watched it. She
goes on like an arc throughout all her films.
Yeah, there's like, and I think a lot of people miss that she's more than just there to either look good or be good in action scenes. She actually has a character and has massive amounts of depth to her, and what she does makes sense.
I think she's probably one of the most nuanced characters in the MCU.
Yeah, and Scarlett Johansson's a fucking good actor. She's really good.
Yeah.
She's not just a she's not just a smoke show. She's actually a good actor, a good character.
Yeah. So she's done so well in this film. It's like she is fantastic.
Yes. I'm trying to remember. And she was one of the most engaging parts of like the early exposition scenes as well.
Yeah. I love one of my favorite scenes with her is when it's after the funeral in London and then she goes over there to see Cap, and it's not to try and convince him to do the chords. It's just like she knows that Cap can't be alone. She's there as a friend, which is a big part of which was one of the bigger themes in like Winter Soldier, and that's been continued here. Like they're really, really good friends, and she knows that Cap can't be alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
She did a lot of Hurricane Ranas in this one.
Oh yeah. Though she couldn't do it on the Winter Soldier though.
No, he just held on there.
Yeah.
He clicked right trigger.
Right on top of the table.
But that fight scene, when Winter Soldier breaks out and Iron Man has his gauntlet on, and Black Panther is just using his hands and fists, and Bucky is outmaneuvering them all, is so dope.
Yeah.
It's so slick.
And that shows how, like, again, it's showing how dangerous a Winter Soldier can be. Like, you can put some of the best Avengers in there. You can put someone like Black Panther in there. Bucky will still almost get away and outmaneuver them all.
Yeah.
And then the fact that at the end of the movie, Iron Man manages to, like, fight against Bucky and Cap at the same time.
Very telling.
Yeah, exactly. That scene's very good.
He's so good at thinking on his feet.
Yeah. Right. Anything else? Oh, what were you saying?
One little detail, which I forgot to mention during Tony. This is more to do with Infinity War, but you mentioned how he covered his face when Cap was about to slam the shield down.
Yeah.
Notice how in Infinity War he had the bleeding edge armor, which when its helmet gets destroyed, automatically recreates a new helmet.
Yeah, it takes part of his suit. Like, he either gets a bit from his egg and then he uses it as a helmet. Yeah.
So he learns. What I love about Tony is there's lots of subtle little things which he learns in each film.
Yeah.
And also, like his damaged wrist, he's holding his wrist all the time because it's sore all the time.
Yeah.
But yes, moving on. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was just going to say, is there anything else we want to say about Black Widow?
She's great.
Right. She's just great. She's great in this film.
Right.
The Russos knew what they were doing with her.
Yeah. We've already sort of gone into him, but I'll just say his name anyway. Sam Wilson, a.k.a. Falcon.
Just what a fun character in this film. Especially, like, the beginning as well. Like, one of my favorite bits.
Especially coming off Ant-Man as well, because he was in that too.
Yeah.
So just trying to set up for it.
Yeah, exactly. We get a bit more of him. And I love at the beginning of the film where he's like named one of his like gadgets, like Red Wing. It's basically saying how cute it is and stuff like that. And he's just a very fun character. But in this film also he's like we mentioned, he's Cap's modern best friend. But I love, like, one of my favorite parts of when at the airport scene when they're trying to get away and Cap's trying to get them all out of there, but Wilson's like, to win this fight, some of us have got to lose it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love that, how they're all like that. I just love how fun but how interesting Sam is in this film, and I love how, like, when Black Widow says that she's going to like side with Tony basically on the Accords, like Sam calls her out on it, and like it's so surprising like how more there is to Falcon than some people give him credit for.
Yeah,
so there's a lot more to it.
He's a really underrated superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's like, and I would assume that's mainly because we have like two other similar characters that do this kind of same things he does. That you have Iron Man and you have War Machine, which do the same kind of things. But Falcon as a character has so much more to him than a lot of people give him credit for, and I really, really enjoy him in this film.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like with every single character in this film, there's a lot of subtlety to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that his choice makes sense. He was there during the Hydra thing. He does not trust the government to make choices for him. He's been a foot soldier, but he was basically left for dead. You know, his squadron died. He was left to fend for himself, really. So he's more about the common man than the government.
Yeah.
And so his choice to side with Cap makes sense, but also the fact that he's a military man with strong moral character. It's just he's much more of a, I guess, playboy is not the right word, but you know, he's kind of playful. He's a much more playful character than Cap, but he does have very similar values.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And then the next character is James Rhodey Rhodes, aka War Machine.
What an interesting way how they played him out in this film. The way they used him to sort of affect Tony and Vision in a sense as well. I think it was very surprising how, I think a lot of people when they watched the airport scene, they were like, "Oh, no one's like gonna get massively hurt. This is a scuffle, and then they'll get past it." But then when Vision gets distracted and then goes for Falcon, but he moves out the way and it hits Rhodes' core, which powers his suit down. And I love the sort of shot where it's panning down. You've got Falcon and Tony coming down, but you don't see the ground until the very last second when Rhodes hits the ground. Because when you look at that originally, you would think that they're going to catch him, but you see the ground at the very last second, and then he crashes as soon as he sees it. I just love that bit.
That's a great subversion.
Yeah, exactly. And there's great direction as well. It's done so brilliantly. And I love the sort of scene that Rhodes has at the very end of the film where he's talking about like how obviously now he's paralyzed in his legs and stuff like that. But he's like, it hasn't made him change his mind because he signed the cause because he thought it was the right thing to do. And there's, again, with Falcon, there's so much more to Rhodey that people don't give credit for. I just think And he's been there since, I know technically we've had 2 actors play him, but he's been there since Iron Man 1. He became a proper character in Iron Man 2, I would say. And obviously we talked about like how the government basically let him down, but he still believes in like doing the right thing. And he thinks if making sure the Avengers stay together, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of believes, because he's much more of someone who will take orders and execute them perfectly.
Yeah. I really agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I mean, when it came to that scene when he fell, I mean, Robert Downey Jr.'s performance, like, I thought he was actually dead.
Yeah, I think if you watched it for the first time, you probably might assume he might be dead.
Yeah, well, because I don't remember him being in Infinity War, so I was like, well, I don't know. So when I saw it happen, I was like, maybe he died. And, you know, when Downey Jr.'s performance came in, like, I was pretty convinced that he was dead.
And in the terms of the actual story itself, he could have died. He very much could have died, and he is quite lucky to only just be paralyzed with the legs.
Exactly.
So, like, it shows like how dangerous this sort of conflict is between them. And even though there's a bigger fight, it's like, I just love like Downey Jr.'s performance when that happens. Like you said, it's done so well.
Yeah,
but and I love how Falcon says he's sorry as well, because even he cares, even though they're on 2 different sides, he still cares for everybody. And then Tony just blasts him to knock him out, and that just shows the sort of state that Tony's in right now, where he's not listening to anybody. He's just trying to what he thinks is the right thing, but he's very emotional about it.
Tony's biggest enemy is himself.
Yeah.
And that's always kind of been exemplified, because we've always had, you know, mirror images of him in Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. And even in Age of Ultron, you know, he has this whole thing of not wanting to be compared to Stark. They are very similar. And finally, his, you know, emotions end up paralyzing the one person who would stick up for him above anyone else. You know, it's just, it makes Tony so much more of a compelling character because he just keeps fucking up.
I
agree, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Right, so the next character is Vision. What a delight.
Yeah, I would say. And I would say quite a surprise as well. Because this is only his 2nd film, so...
And he already feels like a fully developed character. Then again, I guess we did kind of get him as Jarvis, I guess, but...
Yeah, but the Jarvis was... Jarvis had a bit of not pure AI to him, but he had a bit of character to him in terms of just the way he spoke, but not a proper, fully developed character. When he's become Vision, and now he's only had 2 films...
What was it like? He only had like 8... What was it like? He only had 8 minutes of screen time in Age of Ultron anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
He still is that film. Like, with the line, well, I was born yesterday.
Yeah.
That constantly calm thing where he's just trying to fit in, but he just doesn't do things right. Like when he comes through the wall and Scarlet Witch is like, just use the door. Like, I'll use the door. And he's trying to be approachable and human, despite the fact that he could kill all in a second.
Yeah. And like he tries to make food as well, and he's like, I haven't actually eaten anything before.
Yeah.
And it's like they sort of set out this like slowly but surely. They set out this sort of romance between Wanda and Vision that they sort of they not hinted at in Age of Ultron, but they had them interact quite a bit in that, especially in the final act. So they sort of now building upon that in this, and they have very interesting conversations with each other. How Wanda feels like that she's feared because of what happened in Lagos, because basically she is a lot of people's fault, but obviously she was one of the cause of that building exploding and killing quite a few people. And Vision's trying to say, like, trying to make it sound nice by saying, like, nobody hates you, Wanda. And stuff like that. It's just so fun to watch, but like it's very interesting as well and also how Vision talks about the Mind Stone. Like he doesn't know what the Mind Stone is, but one day he hopes to control it.
Yeah, well,
Vision, yeah, I really like how every character has an arc in this film of some sort, and Vision is.
Yeah.
He's a robot. He's calculating. He's logical. He's constantly using logic until his emotions creep in.
Yeah.
Brief, but suddenly.
Because then when Hawkeye comes in, Vision gets personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Go on.
Well, no, you can say what you want. Yeah.
I just love that fight scene between Hawkeye and Vision because they are opposite ends of the power scale. Your Hawkeye's still like, I'm gonna try my best.
I love when Hawkeye arrives. He's like, I retire for 5 minutes and it all goes to shit.
Hawkeye, this is my favorite film, Hawkeye-wise, in terms of his characterization.
What about Age of Ultron?
Age of Ultron's really good in terms of his story, but in terms of the way he is written and his dialogue and cadence.
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of like a Han Solo figure in this film, which I really like. He's not, the comedic relief, because he's a badass, but he's, doesn't take everything too seriously, but is also, he's got layers. He's a mentor figure to Wanda. He's the one who kind of rescued Wanda in a way, and they grow on that.
Yeah, and also they also pay off in like Age of Ultron, like how Hawkeye said to Cap, like, anyway, I have a debt because of what Quicksilver did in Age of Ultron. So in a way, Hawkeye feels responsible for Wanda in these situations. So
I mean, this film is a very, very good sequel to Age of Ultron.
Yeah,
it's pretty much Avengers 2.5 minus Thor and Hulk.
It is.
This is Avengers 2, and Age of Ultron is 1.5.
I would say Age of Ultron is just Iron Man 4 and Friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Iron Man 4 is like Captain America Civil War because there's so many Avengers, isn't it? That's what it's like.
Yeah. But you're right about Vision and Hawkeye. Like, that's like if it was chess, it'd be like a queen and a pawn.
Yeah. Good.
It's so good. It's like, I love how he's just like, I knew you should have stretched.
And the fact that when he's fighting Black Widow, he pulls his punches, and Wanda knows.
Yeah.
Wanda sees it.
Exactly. Yeah, just before that, Black Widow's like, we're still friends, right? And he's like, depends on how hard you hit me.
Yeah.
That's just like nice little banter in the scene.
Just like, that's interesting how it's a war between two people, like two sides that are struggling to maintain control. Yet Vision by himself is, I have to try and fight without killing everyone.
Because when they're coming together, it looks like Catfight is winning. Then suddenly you get that laser beam in the ground, and Vision's like, "Okay, it's time to put on the gloves. All right."
Yeah. And you have that stare off between the two sides, and they run to it. And then you have Spider saying, like, they're not stopping. And then Tony's like, neither are we.
And then in Infinity War, when Thanos fucks him up, it makes Thanos look amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's like who could take down Vision like that?
Thanos.
Ease.
But yeah, Vision is a great character. He's just so warm and enjoyable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like, I love the actor who plays him.
Yeah, Paul Bettany is great.
And like the fact that he has to wear is it full CGI on his head?
I think there's a bit of it. There's a bit of it, but it is makeup on there.
It looks like a bitch to wear.
Well, the thing is, it's a combination, and it's a beautiful combination at that. Because like the headpiece that comes around his ears and sort of circles his face, I know is a real headpiece that he wears, and they paint his face red.
You know what he looks like? You know what he actually looks like? You know, like if you go onto like WWE 2K Online and you get those like people that use hacked movesets?
Yeah.
That's what he looks like a creator wrestler with a hacked moveset. That's basically what he is anyway. So.
Basically. I also just love how he's, wearing a woolen jumper and a button-up shirt.
Yep. He's trying to be so formal around people, but he looks weird just from the clothes alone.
Is this paprika? I don't know.
Pinch of paprika.
Captain America Civil War is a movie where Vision tries to learn how to cook something he can't eat.
Yep. And tries to flirt in a way.
He tries to flirt, but he's not even a real person.
And then when he does eventually become a real person, he gets his head ripped off, so...
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
Infinity War is a cheerful film.
Wanda Maximoff, a.k.a. Scarlet Witch.
A lot more to do in this than Age of Ultron.
Surprisingly, considering she had so much screen time in Age of Ultron.
She's kind of... Until the whole Bucky storyline takes over, she's kind of the linchpin. She's kind of the thing that is the through line. That's sort of the catalyst as well as revolving around her. She's a kid, but she's also basically a god. What do we do about that?
Have they actually said in the MCU that she's part of X-Men? That she's a mutant?
Well, they can now, but at that point they couldn't. Because in the comics who her father is, eh?
I can't remember.
Magneto.
Oh, right.
So in the comics, Magneto and Quicksilver... Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are Magneto's children. But because at the time that this came out, Fox still owned completely the rights to X-Men, they couldn't call her an X-Man or a mutant.
Right.
So that's why she was given her powers. She wasn't born with them,
Yeah, by
so they
the Mind
got
Stone.
around the copyright loophole.
Right. But...
Fascinating. The copyright war with the MCU and the other companies that own the Marvel properties is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's so complicated.
Yeah. DC doesn't really have that problem, do they?
No.
They have all the other problems.
Making good films.
They literally have, like, a whole back catalogue of comics. They have all the, original superheroes. They have all of them in their contracts, but they still can't do it right because they just don't make good films.
See here, Shazam is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I haven't seen Shazam yet.
I enjoyed Wonder Woman to an extent.
Wonder Woman up until the third act is actually really solid. It's just the third act, generic lightning explosions, and my eyes want to dribble out my head. It's just
yeah.
So Wonder Woman's
Professor
great.
Lupin is the final battle.
Shazam is... I love Shazam. It's so good. So I'll say that for you.
The rest of it can go to hell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it? Some sort of Suicide Squad?
You know how when is it Cedric Diggory dies in Goblet of Fire?
Mm-hmm.
And his father comes out and he's like, "My boy! My boy!" I feel like the father watching what they did to Superman, and Cedric Diggory is Superman. My boy! You butchered my boy!
Jesus.
Anyway.
I can touch you now!
This came out around the same time as Batman vs. Superman, interestingly. So there are a lot of parallels between the two.
Yeah.
No. There is one superhero versus another. That's the only parallel.
But also one feels much more earned than the other.
And one just looks better.
Yeah.
And one forced to look.
One is better objectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. It's true. It's 100% fact.
Civil War actually plays like a movie.
Not like a piece of shit you found on the side of the road. Just like Snoke. Anyway. We're getting off topic. Scarlet Witch in Civil War.
She's great in Civil War. And also, I really appreciated that Elizabeth Olsen made the choice to drop the goofy accent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I hated that in Age of Ultron. It was cringeworthy.
Because neither of them actually sounded Slovakian. It sounded like two kids, you know.
They sounded Russian.
You know in Game of Thrones when you got the sand snakes trying to sound like Oberyn, it just doesn't work. It's basically just that.
Yeah. And it's. But
especially because one of them's actually a New Zealander and not Spanish.
Yeah, the whale rider, eh?
Keisha Castle Hughes.
That's the one.
Yes.
Hey.
There'll be no men left in Dorne. Weak men will not rule in Dorne.
Man, Oberyn was cool for the 4 episodes he was in.
Yep. Anyway, Callum hasn't seen that, he won't understand.
Oh, right, I don't understand any of this.
Hey now, I got through Marvel, so you gotta get through that. Although I think your family probably just spoiled everything for you anyway.
No, I know like some things. I know some things.
He knows about hold the door.
Yeah, I know about that. I know about the kid getting pushed out of the tower on the very first episode. I know about the incest.
You know why he pushed out the tower?
Huh?
Do you know why?
I don't know. I don't know why, but I know who it was, and I know that in the most recent episode, season 8, episode 1, that gets paid off in a sense. I know why. Yeah. So.
Oh man, I was so into it. I had no idea the episode was nearly over when that happened. When they locked eyes, I was like, "Fuck yeah!" No, I want to see what happened.
Because the episode only got good in the last act.
Yes. You only gave it 6 out of 10.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting way off topic. So what were you gonna say? Couldn't hear you.
No, I was just complaining about the romantic comedy between Jon Snow and Daenerys.
Anyway, Clint Barton as Hawkeye.
Great. I love him in this film.
Funny, great, charismatic as always.
It's interesting. When I first saw him, he just in Avengers, I was like, this guy is just really really plain. But in every movie, he gets more dad. And I don't mean that literally because of Age of Ultron. I mean as in his appearance. He gets more grizzly.
See what he looks like in Endgame?
No.
Oh, you haven't seen anything from Endgame, all the trailers or anything?
No, I don't want spoilers.
Oh, that's good. No, good. Good.
We're avoiding it like the plague. I don't want to know anything.
Yeah, good. Right,
anyway. All I know is that the color scheme is purple. That's it.
Warned, I know you're avoiding it, but just keep an extra eye open. There has been a leak. I haven't seen it, thankfully, but on social media.
Yeah, I know there's been a leak, but I haven't seen
it. Yeah, Anthony's deleting all of his social media.
Wise choice.
Yeah, no, I'll be careful.
Good.
I think I typed because I was writing up the Doctor Strange notes today, and I typed up Doctor Strange, and in just under where I was looking, I saw the keywords Doctor Strange Endgame leak, and I was like, nope, get off that, not reading that.
Yeah, whatever that was, it could also tie to, in Infinity War, he says we're in the Endgame now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but whatever. I wasn't going to read it. I was like, nah, not reading that.
Whatever that is.
Yeah. Didn't happen. Not canon. Anyway, Hawkeye in Civil War.
It's great. I love his introduction. What I love about this film is it's so captivating, because going into it, I knew Black Panther and Spider-Man were going to be in it, and Hawkeye.
I didn't.
Yeah, I completely forgot. So by the time all 3 of those respectively showed up, I was like, oh shit, that's right! Oh shit, that's right! Oh shit, that's right! And then
the only characters that I knew were going to be in it were Captain America and Iron Man. That's it.
So when he said, where's yours, and it went to Queens, did you know it was going to be Spider-Man?
Nope.
Oh, that's yeah.
But I had that scene in my brain because 2 years ago my friend told me he was in Civil War, but then I forgot.
Right.
And in Ant-Man, they said, we have someone who swings. And I was like, wait, who's that? And then the next scene started and I forgot.
And they also said in that someone can crawl up the walls as well, so...
Yeah, so I don't know. I was lucky not to think that would happen.
Yeah. But Hawkeye's introduction is so good. I love it. It's so
But,
funny.
like,
But it's
I'm telling you, going into this film, the only characters I knew that were going to be in it were Iron Man and Captain America. So I had like 10 surprises.
Brilliant. Because I want to ask you, what did you think of his introduction? Not knowing he's going to be in it, what did you think of it?
Of what?
His introduction.
Which one?
Hawkeye.
Oh, it was great. I was like, what the hell? It's Hawkeye.
Yeah, I thought he was tired.
We just had Age of Ultron like 2 movies ago. Why is he back? Like I knew that Cap and Iron Man would be in it. I had a feeling that Bucky would be in it, and maybe Shield, but that's it. Like I thought it would literally, and maybe Natasha as well. I thought it would literally just be Winter Soldier plus Iron Man. That's it. That's all I thought it would be. And we didn't even get Nick Fury, so what the hell? That was a surprise as well.
Well, he's gone into hiding, unlike in Age of Ultron, where he just shows up.
I didn't know that we were going to get Black Widow, or War Machine, or Vision, or Scarlet Witch, or Hawkeye, or Black Panther, or Ant-Man, or Spider-Man. None of them. I didn't know any. And Crossbones as well, and Thunderbolt Ross from like, what the hell?
That one, because I really appreciated Thunderbolt. I'm sure I'll save that for when we get to talk about Thunderbolt Ross, but I have words about him.
Yeah. So, yeah, Hawkeye was great. Anything else you want to say about him?
I sort of do like when Tony arrives in where the all of Cap's like mates have been kept captured. I love the sort of thing when Tony arrives. He's like, he knows what's best for you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to watch your back for this guy because chances are he's going to break it and stuff like that. It shows like he's got something to him, Hawkeye. He's not all like fun and like cool.
He's just like a cool dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of makes him stand out because it also makes him kind of the most vulnerable of the Avengers. I mean, we knew that already, but because he's the most vulnerable, it makes him kind of more interesting.
Yeah, and if he was to ever die, you know what would happen. Like his family would lose a lot.
So that's the best thing about Age of Ultron, in my opinion, is the fact that they gave Hawkeye personal stakes.
I'd say it's second best to the party.
The party, honestly, I would have been satisfied if Age of Ultron was just 2 hours of them chilling out, having a party with jazz music playing in the background.
Jane's better.
But Jane's better, yeah.
Jane's better.
And also when Stanley's cameo when he's like, Excelsior, because he's completely...
You know what I was talking to Anthony today about, we were just talking about like what could happen in Endgame, and we were talking about like some of the interviews that have been happening with like the cast, and you know there's like a few of them where like Brie Larson's like trying to talk down Chris Hemsworth, and he's just like joking around with her.
I just read about that an hour ago. I just read about that.
Yeah, stuff. and then she was like talking something about like, oh, I'm the strongest one here, and then we just like, what about in Endgame? She tries to pick up the hammer, but she can't.
Well, the thing is, even though Captain Marvel is a very, very powerful figure, there's no question about that, she probably wouldn't be able to lift it because, you know, she's got a chip on her shoulder. She's not...
But I reckon that would be so funny if that actually happened, like she just wouldn't be able to lift the hammer. Because Brie Larson specifically claims that she's the strongest one.
Well, the thing is, Captain Marvel technically is. In the comics, if her and Thor had a punch-up, Captain Marvel would win. The thing is, I don't think she'd be worthy to pick up Mjolnir. That's the thing.
Or Stormbreaker, yeah. Or Stormbreaker.
Stormbreaker, rather, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, we'll move on to the next surprise character. T'Challa, a.k.a. Black Panther. What the hell? I did not know he was in this film at all. Like, that for me, that was the biggest surprise. I was like, wait, what? Black Panther appears before his own film?
Yeah.
You know what? There's so many brilliant little details about this film that really elevate it. But one little one that's really cool is when he's in the suit and he lands from a great height, his feet don't make a noise.
Yeah.
Got noise cancelling like boots, so he can be stealth. It's little details like that. But on top of that, his character is dope. And he's so well justified. He saw his father die in front of him, and who? Like Tony, Bucky's the reason.
And also, because I don't remember what he looked like, when I saw him in this film, I didn't realize it was Black Panther until he put the suit on.
Oh, shit.
Oh, do you not?
No.
Oh, wow.
No, because I just don't... It's been like a whole year since I've seen Infinity War.
Yeah.
So I just don't remember what he looks like outside of his suit.
Ah, right, okay. That's cool.
And it was the same with a lot of the characters, like Black Widow and Iron Man 2. It was the same. I just like, she looks familiar, but I don't know who that is. And then when she put the suit on, I was like, oh, it's Black Widow, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, it's weird because I'm usually known for remembering small details, but for some reason with Infinity War, I don't remember anything apart from, like, Thanos' story. That's it. And obviously Drax's jokes as well. Yeah.
Why is Gamora?
That's right. I've been standing here for an hour, and I've become invisible to the naked eye. when he said an hour, I just completely lost it.
Oh, but yeah, no, Black Panther and Civil War.
Yeah,
what the hell? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, I love, like, even when he's out of the suit, he still has a stance of like a cat. Like when he's been pushed away and he's back on all fours, it's like a panther. I just love that. He's just the little things about him that I really, really, really like, especially in the action scenes. And I love how one of my favorite parts is when Clint is saying, "Hi, I'm Clint," and he's like, "I don't care."
One thing that I wonder is, do people out there have a sort of slight against Civil War because it has to quickly introduce some of these characters that we haven't seen before rather than give them their own solo film first?
I don't know. I don't, not that I've heard, because I think this film introduces them so well and gives them good reasoning for doing what they do. Like, when I went into seeing it, I was kind of expecting Black Panther to maybe have one action scene. I didn't expect him to be a pivotal part of the plot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would like them up.
Yeah. But I think that this film has so much to do. It has, not only does it have to have this sort of conflict between Captain America and Tony Stark, but it also has to introduce Black Panther, has to introduce Spider-Man, it has to pay off and make the action scenes great. It has to pay off the whole Winter Soldier plot. And it is all done so well. The Russos direct this film so well and handle everything so well. Like, anybody else could have had all these things they needed to juggle and drop the ball on one of them. But the Russos do it fantastically well.
It feels like Civil War was an entire phase in one movie.
Yeah. It sort of signifies, I sort of view it as Iron Man 3 was the end of Tony being the protagonist of the MCU, and Civil War is when Captain America became the lead character.
Yeah.
Sort of like a passing of a torch in a way.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because the films that had the most impact on the greater universe, leading and also directly led into Infinity War, were Winter Soldier and Civil War. Captain America's films were the driving forces of their respective phases.
What about Thor: The Dark World?
Obviously. Obviously, you know, that's the best.
Jane's better.
Yeah, the best at making you rant like an absolute moron.
You know, that's one massive, like, plot hole for the audience in Age of Ultron, is that, like, it would make sense for Tony Stark and Thor to compare their partners, but because Thor: The Dark World is so terrible, Thor can't, like, Thor's wrong. Like, there's no comparison.
But the thing is, that argument pales in comparison to if Peggy was introduced as a third part, because Peggy is better than them all.
Well, that's why Captain America wasn't part of the argument, because he doesn't need to say.
too dignified.
And also, he'd probably break down in tears if he started talking about it. To be honest.
Yeah. She wasn't dead yet.
Yeah, but she was too old for him to, Anyway.
I have a theory about Endgame involving Peggy, but we'll see how true.
We'll see.
Oh well.
But yeah, Black Panther is great in this film.
What if Doctor Strange draws a circle and says, "Hey, here, Cap, have a new girlfriend"?
I thought you were gonna say have a new shield because you said circle.
It's just like a time traveling shield.
Get this man a new shield.
Also, tying back into Black Panther, what I love about his story is the fact that it starts at the United Nations or wherever they are, a meeting of different country representatives, and that plot is directly affected by what happened in Sokovia. So this ties brilliantly into Age of Ultron. The fact that the Wakandans finally and we saw Ulysses Claw, which was Andy Serkis's character in Age of Ultron, who was, illegally transporting vibranium out of the country for profit.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to open up public relations, and then the shit goes down in Sokovia, and a whole bunch of representatives from Wakanda die, and that leads this whole series of events in motion.
Yeah.
So I love how every, Winter Soldier, Age of Ultron, and on a personal level, Iron Man 3 all tie into Civil War beautifully.
And I was about to add on to that. Captain America dropping his shield mirrors Tony blowing up his suits in Iron Man 3, and when Tony sees him do that, he sees that and he would probably understand because he did it himself.
But also the line preceding that, which is, "My father made that shield. You don't deserve to hold it." And Cap's like, "You're right."
Yeah. And it's like the whole movie Captain America was standing tall for what he believed was right, but then when Tony said something that was right, he said, "Yep, you are right. Here you go."
It's Cap, right?
This film's so good.
Anything else we want to say about Black Panther?
I think he's just a great suit as well. His suit is fantastic and it looks so good.
Yeah.
Boseman's performance is really... in a film with tons of really, hefty performances, his is really, really good. We get a whole range of emotions from him, from rage to determination to just sadness and then relief. All in, a subplot on top of it. And it doesn't feel like a clusterfuck. He's brilliant. He was a standout when I first watched the film. He's so good in it.
Yeah.
Yep. Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man. So one film after Ant-Man, he comes back already, and he's just there inside the truck. He's just like, "Oh hey," and then he's like real happy to meet everyone.
Yeah, it's just fun. He's just so fun.
And I love how he turns into giant. What is it called when he goes big?
It's Giant Man.
Giant Man. That one's great. And also, because in Ant-Man, I was saying before in the Ant-Man review how there's a whole bunch of things in there that are done on a small scale that are then done again in Civil War on a big scale. So in Ant-Man we see him shut down Falcon's wings, and this one we see him shut down Tony's suit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
it's
also
your conscience. We haven't talked a lot these days.
And also the whole I'm the boss. Yeah. When he turns into Giant Man, fucking trailers, man. They ruin everything. They showed in that trailer that Giant Man was going to be in it. So the whole fight, I was expecting it. But that being said, when it did happen, I was still like, fuck, that's cool.
Oh, well, I didn't know it was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Did it blow your mind when it happened?
Yes. and the fact that we get Ant-Man vs. Spider-Man as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how they just... Spider-Man's like, you know that really old movie, Empire Strikes Back? But it's weird because they say, they all say, how old is this guy? He's really young, but Empire came in, the 80s or something. It was it's a really old film.
Yeah. 80. 80.
Yeah.
80. Oh, that's right. Jedi was later.
Yeah. What if they said, what about that film Return of the Jedi, and then, like, he just, like, I don't know, a bunch of teddy bears come out.
Throws him into a big
They
chasm
crush
and-
his head. They just crush his head with, like, vans or something, or big trucks.
Oh, also, I love the little bit where Scott Lang gives Captain America the truck to throw, and he throws
Got
the
the thing, yeah.
and it explodes. He's like, I thought it was a water truck.
That's just, again, like in Ant-Man, shows how sort of, like, awkward he is, or, like, how he's not, like, the best superhero in the world. Like, he's
Not
great.
at all. Not.
I just
And I
thought,
love
if in an alternate universe where this movie did have Thor in it, he could have come in and said to Spider-Man, no, but I've seen Return of the Jedi, and then he electrocutes someone with his hammer. Anyway, what were you going to say, Callum?
Yeah, I was going to say, when... I got two things. First, right, when Scott Lang is introduced and we see him, like, in the van, he is like, we have this whole little bit where he talks to, like, Falcon, saying, oh, yeah, about before, and Falcon's like, oh, it was a good audition, but it won't happen again. And also when he shakes Captain America's hand too long, again, shows how awkward he is. Also, when he first gets introduced in the fight, where he kicks Spider-Man in the face, and he's like, I believe this is yours, Captain America. Just, again, he's such a fun character.
He's great comedic relief.
Yeah, he is. In this film, he's fantastic for, like, the comic relief, because he's again, like I said in Ant-Man, Paul Rudd is so charismatic and fun to watch. In these films, he works so well.
And also, another thing, Ant-Man ties in with Howard Stark.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, like at the beginning of Ant-Man, yeah.
The main point. It's all connected. That's the benefit of a cinematic universe.
And when it's done well. Yeah.
And Russell T did it first.
Yes. Well, yes.
Right. But yeah, no, Ant-Man's more of a, I would say he's great, but he's more of a comedic character. There's not much to his story in this film. So, and is there anything else we really want to say about him before we move on?
He's just fun. He's just a fun character to have in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because this film starts out with like the Winter Soldier tone, and then later on you get Ant-Man. It's like this film balancing the tones so well.
Yeah, like at the beginning of the film, you get that scene at the beginning. You have the Winter Soldier theme, which is fucking so well done by Henry Jackman. Such a great theme. But then later you have these scenes with Ant-Man just bantering around with Black Widow. He's like, look, I don't want to hurt you. And Black Widow's like, I wouldn't stress about it. It's just stuff like that. It's so good. It's just such a great film.
You're saying this when we were doing the Avengers review. You just couldn't stop saying it. Just like, so great, so great.
It is. That's the thing. Like, it's just done so well. There's so many things to it.
Yes. Now, this one almost took me out of my seat when I saw it. Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man.
Yeah. It's
Oh my god. What the hell?
okay. Put into context. Like, as a kid, Spider-Man, like, I loved the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, and then the MCU came out pretty much, I think, yeah. Spider-Man 3 came out 2007, Iron Man 2008.
Yeah.
So 1 year apart. That ended, and then there was this new MCU, and I was like, oh, fuck. Sony has they're rebooting Spider-Man, which was a bummer to me anyway. A lot of people like it, and that's fine. But
I don't know.
but it also meant Spider-Man was kept
Trash.
separate. Spider-Man was kept separate, and as a fan, because like as a kid, there were 3 comic lines that I used to, whenever I could see them in magazine stores or secondhand bookshops. If it was one of these 3 characters, I'd get it: Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man. If it was one of those 3 characters, I would buy it immediately. I loved Spider-Man so much, and it always sort of disheartened me that, we'll never get him in the MCU. Then it was announced he was going to be in Civil War, and I was so excited. Here's the thing I was most looking forward to in Civil War, but then, because Civil War is so good, the hour and a half before he shows up, I had completely forgotten that he was going to be in it. So then when he said, where's yours? And it big capital letters, which paid off all the title cards for the locations beforehand. The reason for that being they could just say Queens, and people like me who know that's where Peter Parker resides would be like, holy shit, that's right, Spider-Man! Oh my god! And then the characterization was perfect.
Yeah. This MCU Spider-Man is perfect. I have to say.
A teenage kid who was nerdy, but when he puts on the suit, this new confident persona takes over, and he just has this moral value, but he's a kid. He is a kid.
And Tom Holland is brilliant.
Oh, good.
Perfect casting choice for
Absolutely.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah, and, I would like to add that if it wasn't for the MCU getting Spider-Man, I probably wouldn't be doing this series right now, because it was Spider-Man Homecoming that got me back into this.
Oh, really?
Because before that, I'd only seen, 10 minutes of Iron Man 2 and about 10 minutes of First Avenger, and then I watched the Avengers, and then after that, I was just like, nah, it's not for me. When Spider-Man Homecoming came out, I was like, I'm going to give this a go, because I love Spider-Man, and then I watched it, and I loved it, and then I watched Infinity War, and then basically from that point on, my growth for wanting to see these movies got bigger and bigger over the course of about a year.
Yeah.
So for that to come full circle for me to watch Civil War and have a surprise that Spider-Man was in it was great.
Yeah.
However, there's one little problem I have, and it's the same problem I have in Homecoming. It's Aunt May.
Yeah.
I don't like Aunt May in the MCU.
I don't think. What the actress's name is. I don't think she's a perfect choice.
She's just it's probably just because of the Sam Raimi movies, but to me, Aunt May is an old lady.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason why they did that is because they didn't want to keep giving people what they'd seen before. And I
get what they mean.
That being said, I do in my head, Aunt May is not the one in Homecoming and Civil War. Aunt May is
For me, Aunt May is someone who looks like Rosemary Harris, like someone of that sort of age and sort of look. In here, it's and especially in Homecoming, but
in fact, I would think it would be way funnier if Aunt May was old and she was looking at Tony Stark oh, who's this? And Tony's just trying to avoid her because she's really old.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, she's I don't know, in her 50s, and Tony's flirting with her, and it's just a bit what the hell? Yeah. Tony Stark's flirting with Aunt May. It just feels wrong.
It feels odd.
And I get that there's a comedic element to that. It's just for me personally, I see Aunt May as an old woman.
Also, talking about nitpicks with Spider-Man, it's the same nitpick I have with Iron Man in this film. I really don't like the CGI suit. I hate the way he looks when he moves. It's so artificial.
But that's also because the Sam Raimi suit is so perfect.
Sam Raimi suit is dope.
Yeah, the eyes especially.
Yeah, one of the few compliments I'll give the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is I do like the suit in the second one. That's
the best suit, I would say.
I really, really like that. Yeah, it's comic accurate but grounded enough that it doesn't feel silly.
Yeah, but that's like saying you like Thor: The Dark World because of the practical effects.
Oh yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, Amazing
but
Spider-Man.
one just has Spider-Man in it, which makes it better in some way.
I guess so. It's badly characterized Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, but at least it's Spider-Man and it's boring Thor.
Yeah, I guess Thor's a bit stale in Dark World, isn't he?
Okay.
I'd rather watch hours on end of Chris Hemsworth doing complete faux bullshit non-Shakespeare than another minute of that poncy, douchey, completely wrong-headed, arrogant Peter Parker. It's got him so wrong.
Yeah, they did.
And it's in the first one it's bad too, but there's still a smidge of Peter Parker in there, but then you get to the second one, it's just what the hell?
And he stalks Gwen Stacy! What a creep!
You wouldn't see Tom Holland doing that.
No.
Yeah.
Tom Holland would run away from Gwen Stacy because he's too scared to talk to her.
He would turn around quickly and then run into a wall.
Oh, I love Tom Holland Spider-Man. Like the character, it's so perfect for the MCU. So perfect, and he great chemistry with Robert Downey Jr. as well.
Yeah, and Chris Evans for that matter. In that very brief exchange they had, it's so filled with warmth and honesty.
Yeah, and I know that like up to this point there have been plenty of great films in the MCU, but just for me personally, this is the point where the MCU gets legitimized to me, just because Spider-Man is such an important character to Marvel for me. He's like he is the defining MCU superhero for me, and it's like I feel like he's the one that I have the most connection to, and and whilst I do really enjoy the MCU and all its characters, I feel like having Spider-Man in it is that final step to make it feel like it's complete.
The thing is, I do get what you mean, sort of, because for me, a lot of these films feel like products first and movies second, but they are very good products.
Mm.
Civil War, Winter Soldier, and another one that's coming up that I won't spoil. Those three feel like films first, made by people with a vision from the writing and directing standpoint, and not just to be pieces in the larger puzzle. That is only an element. This film and Winter Soldier are great spy films that happen to feature these characters.
Mm.
And a lot of MCU films I really, really enjoy, but I'm like, okay, that was a fun blockbuster, but there's a bit of a glass ceiling. Very few films in the MCU I can sit down and watch and be like, that is a great film. That is a piece of filmmaking that has set up and payoff visually and in the script, and every element of it is so deliberate and brilliant.
Yeah.
Very few of them that are like that, but this is one of them.
Yeah. But do you get what I mean when I say, like, for me, Spider-Man legitimizes the MCU?
Absolutely. Well, especially with Homecoming being the one that made you want to do this, absolutely.
Because there's lots of characters that when I see them appear on screen in this film, like the surprise is like Hawkeye, I'm like, whoa, that's cool, and then I saw like Black Panther, I'm like, whoa, that was like the biggest surprise possible. But when I see Spider-Man, it's like I get this warm, like nostalgic feeling in my heart. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's different to the others.
Yeah, I agree.
There's something truly special about Spider-Man. I feel like he's so important to the MCU, and that's why him dying in Infinity War as well, like, was just so perfect.
Yeah, it just
crushes you. It just crushes you.
Yeah, Tom Holland pulls off being both Peter Parker and Spider-Man so well. Like, the thing is with like the Tobey films, while Tobey, I thought, was a really, really good Peter Parker, I was never fully convinced by his Spider-Man. And I think that's what a lot of people have criticisms over the Sam Raimi trilogy. With like the Amazing Spider-Man films, it was just Peter Parker was horribly misdirected and acted. With this, Tom Holland gets it spot on from the get-go. Like, the first scene you have with him is, oh my god, yeah, that's Peter Parker. That's how he would act. That's how he would act when he sees Tony Stark in this universe. Like, it makes so much sense, and Tom Holland is bloody brilliant in this film. He's funny, but he has meaning behind what he does and his motivation, especially with the scene between him and Tony. But in like the small amount of time he gets in the airport scene, and obviously in that scene with Tony as well, but he owns it whenever he's on the screen.
And he's so cheeky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like so fun. So fun.
And they get it right. Where his priorities are in his head, where it's like, I can't go to Germany. And Tony Stark's like, why not? I got homework, man.
And that face from Tony, and he's like, I'm going to pretend you didn't say that.
It's like the one kid that with superpowers that like doesn't want to join the fight because he's got homework.
But the thing is, not only do they nail Peter Parker as a character, but the Spider-Man persona as well.
Mm.
Yeah. And I love the exchange between him and Captain America.
Yeah.
You got heart, kid. Where are you from? Queens? Brooklyn. It's so simple, but it really sort of sums up Spider-Man has more in common with Steve Rogers than he does Tony Stark.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Steve Rogers before the experiment was very similar to Peter Parker, except sort of in like a 40s war way.
Yeah, like I said before, with like,
Yeah. Although I would say Steve Rogers is a bit more fearless than Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And also, like Peter is very young and he doesn't know anything. Like I said before, like Spider-Man could easily have been on Cap's side because of his motivations and what Steve does as well. It's just because he's so young as well. He doesn't fully understand. Like Steve says, there's a lot going on here that you don't understand, and Spider-Man's like, Mr. Stark would say something like that. Would say that, yeah. So like, he's like so young, he doesn't fully understand what's actually going on.
Yeah, and like you said, it's so messed up that Tony brought a teenager into war.
Yeah, a 15-year-old kid, because I think he's 15 in this film. But like, yeah, it's done so well, and I'm super glad that Spider-Man's in the MCU, and I'm so glad that they got someone as good as Tom Holland getting it. But yeah, brilliant.
I can't wait to get to Infinity War to talk about how much I love him and Doctor Strange together.
Yeah,
they're so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's such it's a period you wouldn't necessarily think of, but they're so good.
Brilliant. Anything else we want to say about Spider-Man?
I think we've said everything. He's just great. He's just great.
Yep. Right, now we've gotten past all the protagonists. Now we actually move on to I guess you could say he's sort of, apart from Tony, he's the villain of the film. Mm-hmm. But again, Helmut Zemo, understandable. He was
relatable.
He
was on the receiving end of a terrorist attack.
Yeah. He comes from a place of loss. His anger, his whole plot, doesn't come from political gain or wanting to take over the world. It just comes from him wanting to expose these people for what they've done.
And that's what he did. And he succeeded.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my favourite lines he has is when he's first introduced and he is in the basement with the Hydra soldier or Hydra person, and he's like, I have experience and patience. A man could do anything with those. Like, one of my favourite scenes also is like when he's trying to learn how to use the code words in the Red Book, but he gets it wrong, but keeps trying. It's like he has a lot of patience, and like you said, a man can do anything with those. I think at this point he might be my favorite villain in the MCU. At this point, I just love him in this film. I think he's so good.
He's great.
The actor who plays him is so good. His motivations make sense. They're relatable, but misguided, and I bloody love him in this film.
And I also love how no one throws a punch at him the entire film.
Yeah.
Like Black Panther saves him from killing himself.
That's so good.
Yeah, and this is the guy who killed his father.
Yeah.
Panther says, revenge has consumed you. I will not let it consume me. I'm finished with it consuming me. It's so good. Black Panther, who this was mainly just, like a tease for his own film, goes through a whole emotional arc.
Yeah, full arc. It's brilliant. Zemo's such a great villain. And his a lot of people say, his plan's so convoluted, some stuff needs to happen, stuff like that. But it's not really. All it really needs is him all he's trying to do is break the Avengers, and he does it.
It's only convoluted. It's only convoluted if you don't see it for what it is.
Yeah.
The only reason why it would seem convoluted is because to expose the Avengers takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
There's the thing is he's not behind the Sokovia Accords.
No. He uses them to his advantage. Is what he does.
He doesn't really care one way or the other what happens with the superheroes. He just wants them out of his life, basically.
Yeah, they want him disbanded and non-functional.
He does do that.
Yeah, the fact that he dressed disguised as Bucky can try and get people to kill each other is really messed up.
And the fact that he was the one who went in and conducted the interview on Bucky.
caused him to kill people and make damage. Yeah.
And holy shit, the phone call, the message on the phone.
Yeah, that's played throughout the film. Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck's this? And then you find out it's his wife who died.
And it's a message, and he's deleting the message at the end. So, like, that's done so well. It's done so well, and yeah, Zima's such a great villain.
This is the same universe with a giant purple space god.
Yeah. He was equally as good as a villain. Like, like...
This is the same universe as Dave Bautista going, "You hurt my friends!"
And a talking raccoon.
And calling someone a green whore.
And Vin Diesel as a tree. I couldn't hear you. I think I know what you said, though. Yeah. Like, the fact that, like, Captain America's films, like, the villains develop over, like, the course of them. Like, you got Red Skull, like, the most generic villain. Then you got bloody the guy from Winter Soldier. And then you got Helmet Zero, who's literally, arguably, an understandable villain from, like, a human perspective. It's crazy.
I mean, from an audience perspective, if we were watching this film, and it was just one film where we learned that there were superheroes, shit went down, and now the government is trying to regulate them, and the movie was from his point of view, I highly doubt anyone would side with the heroes. He could easily make his own protagonist.
Yeah, I would say, to describe the three Cap films in terms of the moral conflict, I would say First Avenger is black and white, Winter Soldier is shades of grey, and Civil War is colours everywhere.
Yeah. The Rainbow Bridge.
God, you just make me think of the Yu-Gi-Oh card, the Rainbow Bridge, where, like, Kuribo jumps over all the monsters and attacks the opponent directly. It's time to duel. Anyway.
It's time to duel!
Are we done talking about Helmet Zero, Zemo? Or are we gonna... What? Wait, hang on. I can't actually remember, because obviously a lot happens in this film. He has that, like, big plot device thingy in his wardrobe. Like, what happens to that? Was that the weapon he used to kill Black Panther's dad?
That thing was to take out the power so then no one could see him using the code words to bring Bucky back into the Winter Soldier.
Oh,
That's
yes,
what that was.
Delivered outside the power plant?
Yeah.
Yeah. Rightio. Just
because all he needed was to learn about the Hydra base to then kill the other Winter Soldiers and to get the tape that Bucky killing Howard and, like, Tony Stark's parents. That's what he needed. And then whether or not Tony was going to show up at the base or not, he was going to either show it there or deliver it to Tony or something like that. Because that's what he wanted. That's what he wanted, for Tony to find out that Bucky is the reason why his parents are dead.
Yes. Right. Anything else?
I think we said everything, yeah.
No.
Villain.
Sharon Carter, who came back from Winter Soldier, and she actually... What was it? She actually got with Cap.
Yeah, kinda. This is the one, like, proper one of the bigger nitpicks.
Is garbage.
I don't like the romance between her and Cap because it's weird. It's very, considering how Cap is still, like, this is the same film where he finds out Peggy dies.
Yeah.
And that Sharon is related to her, and then later in the film they make out. Like, it's so weird. I don't like it.
Yeah. And also, this is also a romance that has a start and an end, but not a middle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you got the first scene where they meet in Winter Soldier, and then you got the scene where they hook up in this film, but you don't really get the middle of it.
The only good part about this whole romance thing, is when after they kiss, we see Rogers look at both Bucky and Falcon, and then they nod in like, yeah, boy, and stuff like that. And it's like, that's the only good part about it. But then that's it, because the rest of the romance is weird and creepy. I don't like it. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, as we've seen, MCU is a little bit dodgy with a lot of the romances. There are some that are good, but
it's like two that are good, but properly, I think, good in this.
Yes, but like the majority of the romances aren't.
No, that's the weak point of pretty much almost all of these films is the romance isn't done well.
Probably Star-Lord and Gamora is probably the best one.
Yeah, that's the best one, I would say. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Sadly, we can't say the same. Like, I wish I could say Thor and Seth, but we never really see it.
No.
So, what a shame. Because, bloody Jane Foster. Anyway, I guess we don't really want to talk about Sharon Carter, do we?
There's not much to say. She just kind of delivers the plot and sets up that whole stand your ground thing.
Yeah, and has a fight scene, and then
she's like if Maria Hill was a love interest. It's basically just the same character. Yeah. So Brock Lumlow, aka Crossbone, so he comes back from Winter Soldier reincarnated.
Yeah. That was a fun opener. Really fun opener with him. I love how he thinks he knows. He goes in there to kill Cap. Whether or not he's going to get out of it or not, he doesn't care. He just wants to kill Cap for dropping a building on his head, like he says. It's like done so well, and I love when his face gets revealed, and he's like, "I think I look pretty good, all things considered."
Yeah. No. He's basically the same as he was in Winter Soldier, except this time he's like a cyborg.
Yeah. He's like quite like crazy as well. He seems a bit more unhinged in this as well. And I love how he uses Bucky to torment with Rogers and distract him. To like coax him into try and killing him.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's a great opener.
Yeah, I guess you could say because this film had a lot of surprise returns and like debuts. I guess you could say that was one for like the villain side.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not really
tying up loose ends that were left open in Winter Soldier.
Yeah. But there's not really much more to say beyond that, is there?
No. It's just great.
He's essentially got one scene, and then he dies.
Yeah. It's just closing a chapter on the Winter Soldier story. So.
Then, of course, this will be interesting to talk about. Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, returning from Hulk. He started in one of the worst films, and then he returned in one of the best films.
Yeah. What a hateable character.
Happy to see him.
Yeah.
I'll tell you for why. So you know how I mentioned before there were 3 comic lines I'd always pick up if I saw them? Them being the Incredible Hulk? Well, Thaddeus Ross is one of Hulk's, main antagonists. And William Hurt, his casting in The Incredible Hulk, he's so underused.
Yeah.
Because he's a powerful actor. And all he does is stand there and scowl. Whereas in this one, they gave him a heart attack, so they mellowed him out a bit, and he's a secretary now. He's not a general. And so he's more human. There's more nuance to him. And he doesn't have that personal investment because it doesn't involve his daughter. Though, weird thing, Martin Freeman is his son, but they never address it.
Huh.
Martin Freeman's character is Thunderbolt Ross's son.
Is it actually?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not sure if it is in the MCU. In the comics it is, and he still Everett Ross still has the last name Ross, so I'm assuming he still is. But yeah, I really, really, really appreciate how they actually used William Hurt properly, and how he also, though he was an unlikable character, bit smarmy, and he had a bit more of an edge to him than he did last time. He's also coming from an understandable place because of the events of the Incredible Hulk. Every everything ties back. He's seen what these superpowered beings can do, the devastation they can leave. So he says, you fuckers need to be kept in line. I love Thunderbolt Ross as well.
Yeah. In this film, I just find him so hateable, but in a great way. Like, I hate him in this film, but that's the point. That's the point, because you're made to hate him because of the Sokovia Accords.
He's the bearer of bad news.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the authority that you don't want to listen to, but then, of course, Captain America's like, yep, we got to do that. Also, I was talking in the Iron Man 3 review about how I was disappointed that I didn't get like a follow-up to Iron Man 2 on Howard Stark.
Yeah,
and then it happened in this film.
Because you were saying that, I had to bite my tongue so hard because like, just you wait.
Because like this is the storyline that I thought we were getting in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, but I love how the sort of the two big players, their whole stories are completely overlapped. Like it all ties together brilliantly.
Mm.
Love it.
Yep. But yeah.
Did you end up watching that Iron Man 3 short film, Hail to the King?
I think I watched the first half of it.
So you didn't get to the little post-credit scene that they have?
I don't think so.
Do you mind if I spoil it? It's not really
Sure, go ahead.
But in that, they flash back to when Ben Kingsley puts on the glasses and does the voice, and they pan around the room, and Justin Hammer is in the same prison, and it's just like, who's that guy? Why is that guy more popular than me? I'm just as cool as him. You know, Tony and I are friends, right? Despite all this, Tony and I are friends. A little bit of more really followed up on.
Is that short considered like the Night of the Doctor of the MCU?
It's the best. What are they called? One shot that they did, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're called one shots. Yeah.
So yes.
Because it also opens up the potential real Mandarin to show up.
Yeah, but they only did that because people backlashed Iron Man 3.
The whole short film's about that. Trevor Slattery talked about how annoyed people were at his performance. it's so meta. It's great. Anyway.
Are there any other side characters we would like to discuss from Civil War?
I mean, Everett Ross didn't do anything.
What about the absence of Nick Fury?
I think he would have brought too much of a logical sense to everyone. He would have brought everyone in line. So it's so important that he wasn't there.
Yeah, isn't it kind of a plot hole that he wasn't there though?
No, I think that he's in the Bahamas. Like, not my problem.
Oh yeah, with Jane Foster and all those people that we don't need. Betty Ross.
He's technically retired. Well, not retired. He's still in hiding, I guess.
I mean, could you picture Nick Fury in that airport scene?
No, but what I'm saying is that isn't it a plot hole that he wasn't in it?
Only a very minor one that I don't think disrupts the flow of the film.
Well, I certainly thought about him whilst I was watching it. I thought about what is he going to do when he enters, and then he didn't. It was like a game without a referee, you know?
Exactly, because if there was a referee, there would have been too much order. So I completely understand. Though storyline-wise, there is a bit of a logic loophole you have to jump through. As storytellers, it makes sense that he wasn't there.
I guess so.
But otherwise, you just it'd sit Cap and Tony down. And
I would have preferred if someone, at least one character, said, "This is why Nick Fury's not here."
Mm.
And it would make sense for like Cap to be like, "I wish Fury was here right now to calm Tony down," like something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but anyway, that's just a bit of a nitpick. And also, Samuel Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, any other side characters?
I think that's pretty much everything.
Because there were a lot of characters in this film.
Yeah.
There's someone obvious we're forgetting.
Well, they mentioned I think there was a reference to Ragnarok because they said, oh, Hulk and Thor aren't here. So I assume it's because of Ragnarok.
Well, no, because obviously Hulk has left the planet, or has left because of obviously the end of Age of Ultron, and obviously Thor is off. I think he's trying to gather information about all the rest of the Infinity Stones because he said there's 4 that's already popped up in recent years, so that's why they're not on Earth.
Alright. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I'll wait till Ragnarok, yeah. Yeah. But that's all the characters, I guess.
I think that's the characters.
Oh! We're forgetting one. Stan Lee.
Stan Lee!
Well, I can't...
Tony Stank.
Yes, this is Tony Stank. Thank you for that. Never dropping that, by the way.
That was great.
That's right. Yeah.
Tony Stank.
And again, much like Avengers, I'm happy that it came after the main conflict, after the climax of the whole conflict happened. It comes after that. That's what I love. I love when they do that, when it's a super serious film that has a real conflict that affects the rest of the MCU.
He could have easily been the guy that opens up the box with the ENT or something, but then it would have just pulled away from the story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the Avengers one was perfect because it came right after the resolution of the climax.
Yeah.
And then he's just superheroes in New York, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah. Give me a break.
Give me a break. Oh, rest in peace. Do you reckon they'll have him in Endgame, or do they just not include him anymore?
I'm pretty sure he filmed his Endgame cameo before he died.
Yeah, I mentioned how they filmed it in one full year, back to back, so
True.
it absolutely will be an Endgame.
But didn't they cut his one from Captain Marvel, I think someone said?
They changed
it. He's very much in Captain Marvel.
They changed it.
They changed how it was represented.
Well, I'm wondering, I have a theory, well, not a theory, just when Stan Lee shows up in Captain Marvel, he looks CGI.
I didn't notice that in theaters.
I don't know, there's something about him that just looked off. Maybe it was just the camera the camera and lenses that they were using just looked off.
Maybe they green screened him in because he was sick.
Could be. It could be that he wasn't actually in the
they did a 3 Doctors.
Could be. Oh, actually, you know what it might be? They may have just composited his head on someone else's body.
What, like in Return of the Jedi Special Edition?
Yes.
I'll have to see that scene again when it's available. So I have to see, because I didn't notice that if it is.
For a second I thought you were talking about Return of the Jedi Special Edition.
No, I know that's bad. I know I don't have to watch.
Never watch that damn. That's the one with the stupid Disney version, Disneyified Jabba's Palace musical.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah. I only watched. Yeah. I'm Despecialized for the win. Anyway, aside from the Emperor and Empire, that's the only big problem with Despecialized because it's such a massive plot hole. Because it's just some New Zealander with a cat's eyes. It looks green.
The thing about that is the dialogue has changed.
Yes, but there is a version that's been made on YouTube that has someone wearing a prosthetic of the Return of the Jedi Emperor face, and they edited McDermott's dialogue to be the same as the original.
Okay.
So I think if you could just slot that scene that's been made into the Despecialized version, it would be perfect.
Edition Emperor it fucking spoils the film.
Yeah, in the special edition, yeah.
Anyway.
But that special edition's designed to be watched if you watch from Phantom Menace first. I always laugh when I get out my Revenge of the Sith DVD and it says the saga is complete. on so many levels that just makes me laugh. It's like, not only does it not even compare to the OG trilogy, but it also isn't complete because in like 7 years that's going to change.
It's just, oh god. Now they're bringing Skywalker back or whatever the fuck they're doing. Jesus.
Matt Smith is Palpatine.
Star Wars is a nightmare.
Anyway, the plot of Civil War.
Fantastic. Brilliant.
Yes.
Start to finish, done extremely well. Never feels like it's dragging on, never feel like it's on pause, never feels like there's a moment wasted. Every single scene is important to the film. Every single second.
Yep, it's like a mix of Winter Soldier and the Avengers, and it doesn't feel out of place.
No.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's... It just doesn't feel like it's a wasted potential. It feels like this was done to everybody's abilities to the maximum. This film and plot is brilliant. And it's everything I wanted it to be when I first watched it, and it's everything I've wanted it to be when rewatching all these films. It's so, again, much like when I mentioned Avengers, how satisfying and rewarding it was to watch it after watching all of Phase 1. This film feels so important and rewarding to the MCU as a whole. Like,
Think about this. Civil War is the same length as Hulk 2003.
Well, oh god.
Yeah.
Something that's interesting is when they announced they were doing Civil War, I was disappointed because I wanted Civil War to happen after Infinity War, but then I realized this was the perfect time to have it.
Mm-hmm.
The Russos just so know what they're doing, and I'm going to be so disheartened if Endgame is bad.
Well, everything that they've done so far has been some of the best in the MCU.
if not be the best. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
I would agree.
You'll have to wait and see for my Phase 3 ranking to find that out.
You'll have to wait for mine. Yes, we'll see where the best film in the MCU sits at the top. But what is it? We'll never know until we get there.
What is it? Is it Ant-Man and the Wasp?
We have to wait to see.
But yeah, the plot of Civil War is brilliant. Moving on.
So good. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because with the Russos, I don't know to what extent these guys have creative control, but Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely have been doing a lot of their films on the screenplay. They also did Winter Soldier, and they also did Dark World, and I think they did Dark World as well. So I feel like I'm not sure how much creative control they have, but they are screenplay.
From what I've watched in special features and interviews and stuff, it seems like Kevin Feige gave them carte blanche to do whatever they wanted.
Really?
Winter Soldier was really, really good, and Kevin Feige said, "Do you want to do the third Captain America?" They said yes, and Kevin Feige asked them, "What do you want to do?" And they said Civil War. So, the Russo, from what I understand...
I wasn't actually talking about the Russos.
No, but I'm getting to this.
Oh, yeah.
I think what it is the Russos basically outlined the whole plot. And because they talked about how they'd go into a room for 6 weeks and just go back and forth about moments, and they had character cards, and from what I understand, they placed, if they had a photo of like James Roddy Rhodes, they put him on the Iron Man side of the room, and then they'd take Vision, put him on the Iron Man side of the room, and Falcon on the Cap side. So they meticulously planned out the whole story, from what I understand, and then gave that story outline to the writers, McFeely and what's the other one?
Oh, Christopher Marcus.
Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, and those guys actually wrote the screenplay. So I feel like they were just tweaking and refining a pretty solid plot that had already been given to them by.
But you find that interesting that they're the same screenplay writers for the Dark World?
I think it goes to show the influence of the director.
Yeah.
In
Like the writing in this film is done so well. It's brilliant from start to finish. Like, one of my favorite lines is like a callback to First Avengers when Tony tells Rogers to stand down, final warning. Rogers gets up, he goes to his stance, and he's like, I could do this all day.
Yeah.
Call back to First Avenger in the alleyway against the bully. And that's so fucking good.
Yep.
It's just the writing and the Russos, all of them have almost perfected this film, and it makes sense why, for example, the Russos went on to do Infinity War and Endgame. Like, I wouldn't want anybody else doing it, in my opinion, because they've done.
Well, they were the best. They were the best people to take over after Joss Whedon left.
Exactly, they were.
Because it's once the universe started smartening up, they were the right guys to choose to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Everyone involved in like the directing and writing did it fantastic. Did a fantastic job, and all the credit to the world to them.
I guess we'll also touch on we'll also talk about the direction by the Russo brothers. So obviously we're going to compliment the vast majority of everything from them and all their films, but I do have a small nitpick with some of the direction in this film.
Right.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the fast shutter speed action scenes near the start of the movie. It was done. They did it similarly. I think they did it maybe not as over the top, but they did it in Winter Soldier really well. But in this film, it just felt like it was just too far. Like,
there are actually quite a few little mistakes in there in terms of like the blocking, and like sometimes there's someone who's speaking, but their mouth is
the actual choreography in the scenes are fantastic. I love the choreography, but the cinematography in terms of just it being like, it looks like it's 15 FPS, but it feels so unnatural. It doesn't feel like the same way it did in Winter Soldier, and that's just one small problem I have with the direction, because it really took me out of the scene. It was just so intense, and I remember it reminded me of a scene from Deathly Hallows Part 1 when they're running through the forest and they do the same thing. And the idea is it's trying to make it look gritty and rugged, but it just felt like a step too far.
I think what happened is they used the same settings on a different camera, so they must have used a different type of camera with similar lenses and a similar shutter speed. But because of this, it looks very different. Some of it looks cheaper than Winter Soldier, but then the other bits of it look super expensive. So it's, flip-floppity.
Yeah, that's the one big criticism I have of the direction, but apart from that, the rest of the film looks absolutely stunning. Aside from some of the CGI, I guess, but
that's a nitpick, yeah.
But it just goes to show it's only like small details like that really bothered me with this film, because the vast majority of it, from a writing and a directing standpoint, was absolutely top form.
Yeah, I would agree.
And that's not just like the fact that it looks nice, but also like the choreography, like how realistic the stunts look. It's similar to Winter Soldier. Maybe not quite on the same level as Winter Soldier with some of the stunts, because Winter Soldier was just absolutely insane. But it was still amazing in this one. And also the visual storytelling from the directing as well was excellent.
This is one of the ones which also... So I was talking about how a lot of them feel like products, but very, very few of them I sort of would assess fully as they're all movies, and a lot of them are very, very good. But these ones transcend that glass ceiling that being a part of a cinematic universe puts on. And a lot of that is due to the foreshadowing and using cinematic language to its fullest.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the other films have really competent direction, but it's often just point and shoot on a nice frame. They don't use blocking. They don't use lighting. They don't use editing. They don't use all these facilities and tools they have at their disposal to fully embrace the power of cinema.
Yeah.
The Russos do, and then one other film, which we'll get to, does as well.
And I think also this is a film with a lot of characters in it, and it really well, especially in the action scenes where there's a lot of them, it does a really good job of showing point of view, which I think is it's easy to relate to what's going on if you're shown from point of view. From like a storytelling perspective and from a direction perspective, just making sense of the carnage is much easier when it's told from point of view.
Mm.
Yeah. And it does it brilliantly, especially in the airport scene.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, the mixing of the tones, the fact that it's a gritty spy film in the first half, but then in the second half it becomes more Avengers-like, but it still feels like the same movie.
And then the final act just becomes a drama.
Yeah.
Tragic drama, and conflict between two friends, and it's done brilliantly well.
Yeah.
Politics goes out the window.
Yeah.
Politics doesn't matter by the end.
Yeah, it's literally Tony going off emotion, just pure emotion, and it's done so well. It's
like in that final battle, talking about direction, there's that simple shot when the shield is thrown down, which pans down and shows Tony completely isolated and bloody in the frame with their scratched up shield in the foreground. Lots of brilliant little things like that.
Yeah. I just had a thought cross my mind. I feel like this film represents what, when you get a great wrestling show. I feel like this film represents what that tries to do with its build, with all the action scenes and all the stories. And I feel like this is the cinematic version of what that kind of storytelling is like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good description.
Yeah, because quite often, because you got the story, and you got the action-packed one-on-one fights. Then you've got the big battle royal in the middle, and then at the very end, you've got the triple threat with the biggest characters in the film.
Yeah,
and it's very dramatic. And I felt like it felt like a much better version of pro wrestling. In every way, and I was very satisfied by that, because that's something that I've been, sorely missing for a long time, because obviously I think we can all agree pro wrestling at the moment, apart from a few gems, is quite shit, especially WWE. And
I was surprised by how good Mania is. I'll just say that.
I did see small gems.
Yeah.
But it's been something that I've been sorely missing, is that feeling of that kind of storytelling.
I think I can sum it up down to a very simple point. It's character driven.
Yes.
More than anything else.
Yes.
And because we know these characters and they've aged in real time, well, not Captain America, but you know what I mean, across these films, the time in the film is the time in real life.
And Black Panther and Spider-Man debut, and they still feel like they're characters.
Yeah.
It's a very focused and brilliant script.
Yes. The music of Civil War is composed by a man called Henry Jackman, who also composed Monsters vs. Aliens, Kick-Ass, Gulliver's Travels, Winnie the Pooh, X-Men First Class, Puss in Boots, Wreck-It Ralph, G.I. Joe Retaliation, Jack Reacher, Kong Skull Island, Jumanji, The Predator, and Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Fuck The Predator.
So he's quite experienced. What was the music like in The Predator, Adam?
I don't remember. I was just angry. All I remember was just blood. I was too busy focusing on the fact that.
And you're talking about the blood of you scratching your eyeballs out.
Yeah, I could only see red, and I could only hear sadness. And
you could only smell shit all over the screen.
I have a theory that Shane Black deliberately tried to make the worst possible film he could.
Yeah, but you said the same thing about Stephen Moffat and Hal Bent, and I don't think that's true.
That's me wishful thinking. Oh man, now I'm angry. Hellbent.
Oh, it's not a Genesis Adventure Sunny video without a Hellbent rant, is it?
Fuck Hellbent! It's so bad.
Oh, I mean, I can trigger Callum whenever I bring up Thor: The Dark World. Hey.
Shit. Worst film in this MCU by far.
Ugh. What if Darcy was in Hellbent?
Be the worst piece of media ever, objectively.
What if the General regenerated into Darcy? Just heard like just heard like a short scream, like the middle of Adam's screen. I just heard. Are you still alive? Oh, I could hyperventilate. Oh. So, the music from Civil War, how was it?
Brilliant.
Really good.
Like what?
Like the music that plays when they run at each other and it's all dramatic and bombastic sounds great. But music can't. Music doesn't matter how good music is, because if the writing's bad, then it's terrible. Like Hellbent got great music, but it's garbage. It's so bad. It's bad character writing. Luckily, Civil War has good character writing because it's not Hellbent, thankfully.
What would be Doctor Who's equivalent of Civil War?
It would probably, if like,
School reunion.
school reunion.
Because it's Rose versus Sarah.
No, it'd be like it'd be like turn left, because and then the two-part would be Infinity War and Endgame, in a sense.
I guess so.
Right about the Infinity War thing, because ending on the massive cliffhanger of in Doctor Who's case the protagonist gets shot, but in Infinity War case it's like half.
Adam, would you agree with the analogy that me and Callum came up with for Age of Ultron?
Which is what? What was that again?
So, Avengers is Doomsday, and then Infinity War is Journey's End, and then Age of Ultron is Daleks in Manhattan.
But that's an insult to Daleks in Manhattan.
But no, the thing is, like, Age of Ultron would have been a really good Iron Man film. Its concepts are good. It's just the way it's placed, and like, there's a bigger expectation.
And it's an Avengers film.
No, you're absolutely right. Basically, everything you guys said in that film, I wholeheartedly agree with. It's because that film feels really hollow.
Well, if it was Iron Man 4, it would probably be my favourite Iron Man film. But it's actually an Avengers film, and it's by far the weakest Avengers film. So
far.
What can I say? Oh no, don't say that. Don't curse Endgame like that.
It's gonna
I've already bought my tickets. I'm not going to get a refund if I take it back.
3 hours.
Yeah, look, superhero film the length of Fellowship of the Ring theatrical.
Oh, fuck. I just realized the plot of Endgame is probably, most likely, going to be very similar to the plot of Hellbent.
Well, unless it's
Going
not.
back to the planet, going back in time, and bringing people back from the dead.
Yeah, but it'll be done well. That's the difference.
That is true. And I'll have a good villain.
Yeah.
Stephen Moffat ghost writes Endgame. Anyway, the music of Civil War. Anything else we want to say about it apart from it was good?
It's really good. They bring back the Winter Soldier theme at the very start of the film, which is bloody great. The music for the last scene when Tony is reading Roger's letter, I think is very good as well, because it has that sort of like stop before when like Roger says, "If you need me, I'll be there," and stuff like that. It's really good. And also the music in the airport scene when they go to each other and they start fighting is really, really cool as well. It's really well done. But yeah, music is really good. And of course they're going to get the person who does Winter Soldier as well for this because it's so good.
My next comment doesn't actually have to do with the music. It's another nitpick over the film. Is the font used for the like town names.
Bloody Resolution.
It reminded me of Resolution.
But at least it looked like an actual, somewhat, Yes,
but I've been making thumbnails for the past year and a half, and I have so much OCD about text not having like an outline.
To be fair, there is no outline, and that's fair.
Especially when it goes against like white buildings and white sky, like that just really annoys me. Nothing else to say? Is this another spoiler I don't know? Is there another film in this franchise that's full of text? You're just keeping your lips shut because you're like, we're not going to tell them?
No, I wasn't bothered by the text. I like the text because it was big and bold, and obviously, like we've mentioned, it pays off the Queen's bit when introducing Spider-Man, so that's like the payoff for it.
Yes,
so.
I just wish the font was different.
No, yeah, that's fair.
Not just
I was fine with it.
Yeah.
I was fine with it.
Size 72. Centered. What were you going to say? You liked it? You liked the font?
Yeah, like, it would have been better with a border, but I have seen far worse fonts for locations in film.
Yeah, but what about like Guardians of the Galaxy when like all of the names of planets were like in the corner, like that was cool.
I mean, it's the same. I mean, I don't really think it's a spoiler that Guardians 2 does that as well. And that's really that's great. It's so much better because it's in universe, not in terms of it's not like something they can see, but it looks like it's got the alien text underneath it, and it looks part of the universe. Whereas this one, I kind of just appreciate how simple and blunt it is. Just like, you're in Queens now, you're in Lagos, you're in Berlin, London. Yeah, you're in London.
I guess so. Just needed a border. 0 out of 10, worst film ever, doesn't have a border on the text. This is the thing though, is this is a review, and we have to find something negative to say about the film, and that's what I've got.
The font is bad.
Anything else about the music before we move on to the trivia for Civil War?
Nothing.
Jesus, we haven't even done the trivia.
I know, right? This is probably gonna...
It's now been nearly 2 hours, 20 minutes talking about Civil War's characters and music and direction.
This might end up being longer than the Avengers one. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I have for all these reviews, I've had the film been playing in the background.
We're lucky this isn't the last Phase 2 film. We do have to do a ranking as well.
Yeah, exactly. This would probably be 3 hours long. It probably
Yeah. Anyway, we'll start with the trivia, should we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The day before filming a fight scene with Robert Downey Jr., Sebastian Stan sent him a video of himself doing intense bicep curls in front of a decapitated head of an Iron Man suit. He attached the message, "Looking forward to our scene tomorrow, Robert."
Fucking hell!
That's brilliant.
What a savage.
There you go, Seb.
Tom Holland commented on how intimidated he was when he came to screen test for Spider-Man, saying that Robert Downey Jr. took him aside and said, "Listen, I remember my screen test for Iron Man, and I remember how terrified I was. Just think of it as an audition. It's nothing too scary. If you get it wrong, we'll just start again. No pressure."
Hey.
That's good.
Sebastian Stan revealed that the backpack that Bucky is seen wearing in the trailers contains journals that he has put together of his scattered memories.
Cool. That's a nice little character detail.
Mm. Co-director Joe Russo said that the most powerful shot of the film was when Steve Rogers stopping a helicopter from taking off with his bare hands. The shot was featured in the first teaser trailer for this movie. Russo said Chris Evans worked very hard in the gym to physically embody the character because they wanted to test the limits of Steve's physical strength. About the shot itself, he noted, on set we had Chris straining against a crane, holding the helicopter to get this fantastic shot of his muscles bulging, and you can feel the energy and determination as he tries to stop it.
Mm.
It's just great.
It speaks for itself, really.
Yeah, what can you say? He's giving Hemsworth a run for his money.
Oh yeah. Jesus.
And so is Bucky.
Yeah.
He's buff. Maybe he should be called Buffy. The
Buffy the Winter
Slayer.
Soldier. Buffy the Winter Soldier.
Buffy the Avenger Slayer. Buffy the Hydra Slayer.
Buffy the Howard Stark Slayer.
Oh no! Buffy the Stark Slayer.
Yeah.
That sounds like something from Game of Thrones.
More spoilers for Cal. There you go. Great. Give them all the spoilers. This movie revealed that Bucky Barnes had been hiding out in Bucharest, which is the capital of Romania. Sebastian Stan is a Romanian-American actor who was born in Constanța, Romania, and was raised there until he was 8. In his first scene set in Bucharest, Bucky is buying fruits from a street market. Stan's native language is Romanian and therefore spoke it perfectly.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You can hear it when he speaks normally in his American accent. You can hear it faintly. You can hear his accent.
It's just like Nikolai Coster-Waldau. You can hear his slight Danish accent.
Yeah, but it's very faint. Yeah.
Yeah. It's usually in between words.
Mm.
Tom Holland is the youngest person to portray Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, on screen at 19 years old.
Fucking bastard.
In an interview, Daniel Brühl, who played Zemo, said the budget for this movie was so huge that you could make 20 films from it.
You could. Easily.
I mean, it was about that many characters. They could all have their own single film.
Yeah. I want a Black Widow movie, damn it.
Surely. I want a Civil War with Black Widow and Captain Marvel.
Oh, no, Black Widow would just get pinged into the sun.
Oh, well. Be worth a shot.
No, I don't want to give away Black Widow.
Well, the Civil War's already started in real life, so there you go.
Okay.
Tom Hiddleston confessed. Now, this is Tom Hiddleston we're talking about here. He's part of the trivia for Civil War, and he wasn't even in it.
Ooh.
Tom Hiddleston confessed that even though he did not appear in the film, it contained one of his favorite moments in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The helicopter scene, of course. Enthused, I mean, Chris Evans does a bicep curl with a helicopter. If you don't love that, we can't be friends. He just seems like such a big fan.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that he had to be in the Dark World. Yeah. Although he is the best part about it.
Dark World.
Yep. In all three Captain America films, Bucky falling into a body of water represents a major change to the character. In Winter Soldier, falling into the Potomac marks the beginning of his recovery. In Civil War, falling into the river in Germany makes him realize brainwashing still affects him. And he also falls into the river during his death scene in First Avenger, which marks his transformation into an assassin, but this is not revealed until the second film.
Yeah.
So that's very symbolic.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's like symbolic of like he's being, I don't know, baptized or something, but it has to happen 3 times. I don't know. I'm just coming up with theories. Oh, more trivia about the helicopter scene. Chris Evans injured his arm muscles while filming the iconic shot of Captain America holding back a helicopter with his hands. Evans said that the shot is a little bit of bicep porn. Zoom in on the biceps. That's what the script said. Kevin Feige didn't airbrush my biceps. That's me. It's not an utilitarian shot. It's a shot where you trying to look heroic. That position is actually a very unnatural position to use to stop something, but we used it because I have to flex my bicep. You were trying to make the scene look great, and I genuinely messed my arm up doing that shot because of the strain. Robert Downey Jr. joked that the filmmakers didn't mind that Evans hurt himself because of how great the shot turned out, and they have been using it to promote the film ever since. Anthony Russo revealed that the iconic shot almost didn't happen because on the day of filming there was a miscommunication with the costume department and Evans came in wearing a thick jacket. They immediately sent him back to change because then they wouldn't have been able to film the shot of his muscles bulging as intended in the script. It seems like such a important scene to the film. Yeah. It's like we have to get this one thing right, and then the whole film will be great.
Good luck, bicep.
Yeah, it's like we can write a great script, but to get people to actually buy tickets, we need to have a trailer shot.
Yeah.
The fact that Captain America, Chris Evans messed up his arm doing it as well. But Downey Jr. is like, it's all good. Looks good. Rest up, kid. Marissa Tomei, who plays Aunt May, was in her 50s, in contrast with Rosemary Harris being in her 70s and Sally Field in her 60s. So it's like every time her character gets redone, she gets 10 years younger.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The next one's going to be 4 years old.
Yeah.
One 30, next one 20, and then the last one's going to be 10 years old.
It's going to be a Star Wars prequel. Star Wars prequel? It's a Spider-Man prequel.
No, we don't want another one of those.
We're going to have a 3-year-old Peter Parker. And then Iron Man take him into the middle of battle.
And then Jane Foster and Thor on the fields of Naboo.
Thor just ranting how he doesn't like sand.
Musical sand, they're clouds.
I don't like sand. We don't have it in Asgard. And not just the men, but the women and the children too.
And the gods too.
And the gods. And my brother Loki.
Even the younglings.
And Natalie Portman is still in it. She's the same character.
You're breaking my heart.
Going down a path I can't follow.
You're going to kill me.
Hello there.
Oh dear. By the end of the movie, the Avengers logo on Captain America's arm is no longer there, representing the fact that the Avengers are no longer his.
Nope. Yeah, he says that Rogers says to Tony, he's like, the Avengers are now yours, more so than it ever was mine, or something like that. So, yeah.
Mm.
Good he did. He got half the universe bloody killed.
Yeah, but what would have Cap done? If it was Cap instead, would he have saved...
He would have been able to calm Peter Quill down to get him to not freak out so they could get the gauntlet off Thanos, kill Thanos, break the gauntlet up, and get the stones in different parts of the galaxies, or even better, destroy them.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have been interesting at all. It would have been like... It sounds like a first Avenger plot, like just really boring and stale.
But Captain America would have got it done. Because he gets shit done.
Because he's American.
He can do it all day.
Yeah.
It's like Tommy Lee Jones is like, you're a soldier, and you gotta do it right for your country.
Josh Brolin played a young Tommy Lee Jones in Men in Black 3.
And Tommy Lee Jones played Two-Face in Batman Forever. Flip a coin. I fucking in First Avenger when like they wear those hats and like it just reminds me of Thunderbirds. No CGI was used during the highway chase scene when Bucky commandeers a moving motorcycle from under its rider. The whole stunt was practical.
Sebastian Stan, badass.
Yep. Romanians, man.
Romanian rain.
You know that Romania has been in every Rugby World Cup?
I did not know this.
Yeah, it's crazy. I learned that at trivia night the other night.
Oh.
Romanians are strong, but they don't win. The Romanian rugby team is like the Age of Ultron of rugby. It's too big to be small, but too small to be big.
They need an Ant-Man.
The words Homecoming and 17 in Winter Soldier's Hydra Command reference the title and date of release of Spider-Man Homecoming. Peter Parker wears a pizza shirt when he meets Tony Stark for the first time. Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker worked as a pizza delivery man in Spider-Man 2. But of course, you all knew that.
Pizza time.
That video game, man. I don't think I've ever been more stressed by a task.
Have you seen the J. Jonah Jameson version of that song?
No, I don't think it has.
Oh my god, search Pizza Time on YouTube. It's literally him laughing, but it's that song.
Oh my god.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the iconic laugh from Spider-Man 2.
It's the iconic laugh from Spider-Man 2 and the iconic song from the Spider-Man 2 game all in one.
Yeah.
It's the best video of all time, ever.
A big call.
Well, there's one that was better, but it's not on YouTube anymore, so... Anyway.
Oh, Jesus. I'm watching it now.
Are you?
This is incredible. Spectacular.
You serious? You sissy? Parker, you're fired. Oh, you're unfired. Come here.
There is one post-credit scene that in-game will have that will make me happier than anything else. If Peter Parker comes back to life, goes into a building, walks around, and he sees a man staring out his window, he turns around and says, "What's her name?" He says, "Peter Parker. Welcome to the Bugle, Parker. I'm J. Jonah Jameson." And it's J.K. Simmons again. Hard cut. That's all I care about. That's all I want now. After
11 out of 10. 11 out of 10 if that happens.
Oh, 11's not high enough. Like 1,000 out of 10.
And she receiving no money for these pizzas.
And fix the damn door!
During the closing credits of Civil War, the song Left Hand Free by the band Alt J plays. This song is significant due to the fact that Bucky loses his robotic left arm during his fight with Iron Man. Sebastian Stan gained so much muscle and weighed 200 pounds that Marvel had to make him a new metal arm.
You can tell. You can tell. He got swole.
While it is well known that somebody loses an arm or hand in every MCU movie as homage to Empire Strikes Back, Bucky is the first character to lose his arm twice.
Man.
That's all the trivia.
Ew.
Who wants to go first for conclusion and rating out of 10 for Civil War?
Oh, man.
You want first? You can go first.
Alright.
Flip a coin!
It was exactly the shot in the arm the MCU needed. In terms of the main storyline, in terms of the Avengers, exactly what it needed, exactly when it needed it. It introduced a whole bunch of new elements to go forward, and it also tied up a whole bunch of loose ends and split the team and set everything in a new direction and did it beautifully. The script is layered. It's very entertaining, never boring. Music is awesome. Editing's great. It's really, really good, and it's a beautiful progression of the two leads of the whole franchise. 9.5 out of 10.
All right. Captain America: Civil War at this point is the best MCU film for me. At this point, its script is fantastic. Its plot is almost flawless at times, and it's just everything I wanted it to be going into it and rewatching it. All the characters make sense. Their motivations make sense. Tony as the antagonist, basically in this film, is one of my favorite parts about it. Captain America is great. Action scenes are fantastic. Zemo as a villain is great because he's relatable and makes sense. And how this affects the MCU as a whole going forward all the way to Infinity War and Endgame is brilliant, and it's done so well. The Russo's done a fantastic job directing and guiding sort of the writers, making this film as good as it was. This film is absolutely a 9.5 out of 10 for me.
Great.
Captain America Civil War was hyped up to me by everyone in this group, from Callum to Anthony to Adam to Josh. Everyone who's appeared on this has already hyped it up, and yet it still didn't disappoint, thankfully. Because a lot of time that can happen as you get overhyped for a film, and then you watch it and it's not as good as they say. But it is. It is as good as they say it is. It is everything that was great about Winter Soldier combined with everything that was great about Avengers blended into a perfect, lovely ball of fluffy fun and gritty, mature storytelling that never lets down. It's a film that I watched from start to end, enjoying almost every moment of it. There are a couple of nitpicks in there, like Aunt May, like the not having borders around the text, like and something else I can't even remember. I don't know, I guess Bucky in the First Avenger wasn't that great for me, so there's that. But then again, that's not this film, that's First Avenger. So this is one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen, and it's a 9.5 out of 10.
Wee.
Not disappointed?
Oh, good.
I gave everyone what they wanted. You happy now?
Don't worry, Connor. The money will be transferred.
Oh, I could do some money right now. Although, patreon.com/Genesis Adventures, if you'd like to contribute to the channel, you can get access to certain tiers, such as the timey-wimey tier, which gives you early access to videos like this one. Get it 12 hours before everyone else. Also, the master tier, which gives you the option to request us to video to do for you. I did that cigarette thing because of the master in Mind of Evil, the painting that I put for the master tier.
Yeah.
Yes, you get to request a video for us to do, like, I don't know, nothing too stupid, but if it's to do with reviews, we'll do it for you. And also, if you're on Patreon, there are also some exclusive videos you can get, such as commentaries and other stuff that I'm sure we'll be adding in the future. But the predominantly thing is, contributing to this channel allows us to do things like this. I wouldn't be able to do this entire series without this microphone, and Patreon paid for it. So, yeah, second plug, because this is a 2.5 hour review. So, I think it's about bloody time that we have another plug. Anyway, that's it. So the next movie we're going to be watching and reviewing is Doctor Strange. So, anything else you guys want to say before I click stop?
Civil War's great. Go and watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah? Adam.
Yeah.
Hellbent. There you go. See ya.